Chapter 1635. Now, Chu Fengmian's bloodline power alone was comparable to the power of 2 dragons. And Chu Fengmian's strength was far more than that. His swordsmanship, his ice and fire divine physique, and countless fortuitous encounters almost made Chu Fengmian's strength far surpass the power of 2 dragons. Now, even among the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, young Master Phoenix, whose strength was comparable to 2 or 3 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, was killed by Chu Fengmian in one blow. Although it was a coincidence, it was enough to prove Chu Fengmian's strength. Among the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, Chu Fengmian was definitely worthy of being called a powerhouse. Especially now, Chu Fengmian was only in the realm of the 8 tribulations Emperor Gu. Once Chu Fengmian stepped into the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, it would be a leap for Chu Fengmian's strength. The gap between the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu and the 8 tribulations Emperor Gu was huge. Once Chu Fengmian stepped into the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, his strength would skyrocket by 10 times. However, it was easier said than done to break through to the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. Chu Fengmian's aptitude was heaven-defying, and he had countless fortuitous encounters. Chu Fengmian wanted to break through to the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. The resources needed were also 10,000 times more. The last time Chu Fengmian tried to break through to the Emperor realm, he almost used up all the wealth he had accumulated. This time, even though Chu Fengmian was in the Crimson Continent, he had already obtained many opportunities and killed many 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, obtaining their empty rings. However, the resources Chu Fengmian needed to break through to the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu were far from enough. Moreover, Chu Fengmian's strength still hadn't reached the peak of the 8 tribulations Emperor Gu. If he hadn't reached the peak of the 8 tribulations Emperor Gu, how could he break through to the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu? The more heaven-defying a person was, the more difficult it would be to break through to a higher realm. Moreover, Chu Fengmian's heavenly tribulation was 10,000 times more powerful than a cultivator of the same realm. Chu Fengmian would only choose to break through to a higher realm when he was fully prepared and accumulated. In history, the more heaven-defying geniuses, the more likely they were to die. Chu Fengmian didn't want to follow in their footsteps. I can't break through to the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, but I can still improve my strength. Especially my physical strength, it's still far from the limit. Chu Fengmian slowly stood up and looked at the ancient golden door. His real purpose of coming here was not to deal with monk Jianwang and the others, but for the mausoleum of the golden-bodied Buddha. Now, monk Jianwang and little Yaowang Hanyu were forced away by Chu Fengmian. Master Huang died in Chu Fengmian's hands. The innumerable treasures in the mausoleum belonged to Chu Fengmian alone. Rumble. Chu Fengmian stood up and condensed spiritual energy in his palm. It transformed into a dragon claw and bombarded the ancient golden door. This ancient golden door had already been cracked by Chu Fengmian. This time, Chu Fengmian condensed his power and bombarded it with his attack. The ancient golden door immediately shattered and disintegrated in the air. The scene behind the ancient golden door was immediately revealed and reflected in Chu Fengmian's eyes. Countless mystical glows were emitted. Before the ancient golden gate had been destroyed, the light of treasures had been trying to come out. Now that the gate had been destroyed, Chu Fengmian could clearly see the true appearance of the light of treasures. The most dazzling treasure light was a fist-sized golden red stone. It was the most dazzling treasure light of this golden red stone. Good, it's the Tibetan gold essence. Sure enough, the Tibetan gold essence is hidden in the mausoleum of the golden-bodied Buddha. The fist-sized Tibetan gold essence is a perfect golden red. This perfect quality is the best of the Tibetan gold essence. It's close to an immoral item. Chu Fengmian was overjoyed when he saw the golden red stone. He also recognized what this golden red stone was. Tibetan gold essence. It was an extraordinary item formed by the pure power of the earth. It was thousands of times purer than the power of the earth contained in the thick earth essence. Such a small fist-sized Tibetan gold essence contained even more power of the earth than a continent formed by the thick earth essence. Chu Fengmian had once obtained a whole mountain range of earth, but compared with this Tibetan gold essence, it was not even 1% of it. From this point, it was enough to see how much power of the earth was contained in the Tibetan gold essence. Moreover, the Tibetan gold essence was precious not only because of the great power of the earth it contained, but also because of the essence of the power of the earth. Take the thick earth essence for example. Although it was considered a treasure among the 9 tribulation ancient emperors, it wasn't a problem to purchase a large amount of it if one wanted to spend a lot of money. Chu Fengmian could even buy the thick earth essence, which was stronger than the power of the earth contained in the Tibetan gold essence, with spirit stones. However, the Tibetan gold essence was a priceless treasure, because the purity of the spiritual power in it could not be condensed by human power. The Tibetan gold essence could only be born in the chaos when heaven and earth were created. Even in some extraterritorial places that contain the power of the earth, the Tibetan gold essence could not be born. Moreover, the Tibetan gold essence in Chu Fengmian's hand was the best of the Tibetan gold essence. This kind of top-grade hidden gold essence was a must-have for refining one's physical body to the extreme and breaking through to the immortal real body. It was something that countless experts half a step away from the celestial realm and even those in the celestial realm yearned for. Once I refine this Tibetan gold essence, it will be enough to strengthen my body by at least 50%. Chu Fengmian could not help but sigh as he felt the power contained in the Tibetan gold essence. However, he was not in a hurry to refine it. Instead, he continued to look at the stone chamber behind the ancient golden door. In the center of the stone chamber was a stone coffin, but Chu Fengmian could see through the stone coffin and found that there was no one inside. There was no corpse, only an ancient monastic robe. This ancient monastic robe had been sealed by a peerless expert. Although it had been through countless years, the ancient Kasaya had not decayed. The golden body Buddha's remains are not among them. It would appear that the golden body Buddha has most likely died outside. Chu Fengmian said when he saw this. There were records of the golden Buddha in some ancient books, but there were only a few strokes. As for the fall of the golden Buddha, there was no record. It was just in front of him. Since the skeleton of the golden-bodied Buddha was not in the tomb, it was most likely that the golden-bodied Buddha had died outside. Later, the Pure Land sect could not find the skeleton of the golden Buddha and only left such a cenotaph. Chapter 1636. Chu Fengmian couldn't help but feel a little disappointed that the skeleton of the golden Buddha wasn't there. After all, Golden Buddha was the famous war Buddha of Buddhism, an invincible expert who had entered the celestial realm with his body. Perhaps Golden Buddha was also an expert who had condensed an immortal real body. The half-step immortal real body in Chu Fengmian's body was because he had obtained the bronze heavenly demon skeleton. Chu Fengmian refined the heavenly demon skeleton with the help of the divine tree to condense the half-step immortal real body. The skeleton of a celestial being was almost as valuable as the Tibetan gold essence. If Chu Fengmian obtained it and refined it by the divine tree, it would be a great improvement for him. It was a pity that Golden Buddha's skeleton was not in the tomb. Chu Fengmian looked at the other corners of the tomb again. In addition to the Tibetan gold essence, there were a few rays of treasure light. Most of them were natural oddities with body-refining effects. Although their effects were not as good as the Tibetan gold essence, they were still very rare treasures. Chu Fengmian did not hesitate. He gathered spiritual power in his palm and grasped at them. These natural oddities were all collected into Chu Fengmian's body. Suddenly, the sky-devouring secret skill was activated. It devoured all the spiritual power of these natural oddities. The spiritual power of these natural oddities entered Chu Fengmian's body one by one. They separated and poured into every crystal of flesh and blood. After fusing with these extraordinary items of the heavens, they all fused together. Chu Fengmian's flesh and blood crystals became more tenacious, and the connection between them became tighter. The six-winged centipede is not in this stone chamber. Chu Fengmian searched the entire stone chamber thoroughly. He didn't miss out on any of the precious treasures of the Tao of body tempering, nor did he miss out on any of them. However, he did not see the six-winged centipede. Previously on the Crimson Continent, when the Buddhist temple was opened, countless rays of treasure light appeared. Chu Fengmian valued two natural oddities the most. One was the Tibetan gold essence, which was now in Chu Fengmian's hands. The other was the six-winged centipede. Both of them were precious treasures of the Tao of body refining. According to ancient records, if one wanted to push their fleshly body to the limit, they would need an eternal true body. The assistance of these two body refinement techniques was indispensable. Furthermore, the two treasures complemented each other. The hidden gold essence contained the pure power of the earth. Therefore, it was sufficient to refine one's physical body. However, with such a pure and enormous power, if one was not careful, one could be devoured by the power of the earth. At that time, if his physical body was petrified, he would lose his physical body at the very least. In the worst-case scenario, he might die on the spot. In order to refine the hidden gold essence, the six-winged centipede had to be used as a neutralizer. Only by refining the two at the same time could he unleash the full potential of these two treasures. The concealed gold essence was in the golden-bodied Buddha's tomb, but the six-winged centipede wasn't there. Chu Fengmian felt that it was a pity. However, there were more than tens of millions of Buddhist powerhouses buried in this burial ground. It was extremely normal for the six-winged centipede to be buried in the tombs of other Buddhist experts. Chu Fengmian glanced at the hidden gold essence in his palm and put it into the empty ring. When Chu Fengmian found the six-winged centipede, he would refine these two treasures at the same time. Let's go! The stone chamber had been emptied, so there was no need for Chu Fengmian to stay here any longer. There were treasures everywhere in this burial ground. The more treasures Chu Fengmian collected, the more it would be able to enhance his strength. Chu Fengmian injected a stream of spiritual energy into the thousand thoughts Buddhist beads on his wrist. A stream of pure Buddhist power descended on Chu Fengmian's back and turned into a ray of Buddhist light. Then, Chu Fengmian moved his body and flew out of the temple. Without monk Xuanluan deliberately activating the Buddhist restrictions in the temple, the power of the thousand thoughts Buddhist beads alone was enough to deceive everyone. The moment the Buddhist restrictions on the way came into contact with the Buddhist light on Chu Fengmian's back, their power was weakened by 10 times. Chu Fengmian rampaged through countless Buddhist restrictions and left the temple all of a sudden. He turned into a ray of light and flew directly into the distance. Not long after Chu Fengmian left the temple, two figures appeared from the edge of the temple. Monk Xuanluan, why didn't you activate the Buddhist restrictions in the temple to deal with this kid? These two figures were Monk Xuanluan and Yangyao Hanyi. Now, Yangyao Hanyi's aura was extremely weak. Obviously, he had lost a lot of essence and blood. His strength was seriously damaged. Watching Chu Fengmian leave the temple so easily, Yangyao Hanyi's eyes were extremely cold. In particular, he could also see that Chu Fengmian's aura was now more tyrannical than before. Obviously, the treasures in the mausoleum of the Golden Buddha had fallen into Chu Fengmian's hands and now all of them had been turned into Chu Fengmian's power. Yangyao Hanyi came to invite Chu Fengmian to explore the treasures of the Golden Buddha together. Originally, he wanted to use Chu Fengmian as cannon fodder and let him reap the benefits. But now, he had led the wolf into the house. Young Master Huang had fallen, and he had almost died in Chu Fengmian's hands. As for the treasures in the mausoleum of the Golden Buddha, they were all obtained by Chu Fengmian. All of this made Yangyao Hanyi close to madness. No, it's just this person's strength. Even if I activate the restrictions in the temple, it will only bring him a little trouble at most. It won't hurt him, and it will be easy to alert the enemy. Hearing Yangyao Hanyi's question, Monk Xuanluan shook his head. Although the Buddhist restrictions in the temple were powerful, once he activated them, they could only delay Chu Fengmian's time at most. If he wanted to really hurt or even kill Chu Fengmian, these restrictions alone were far from enough. Then what should we do? Once this person's strength goes further, you and I will die in his hands. Yangyao Hanyi said with a cold snort. This kid's character is incomparably ruthless. He has always dealt with his enemies by cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots. Are we just going to sit and wait for death and watch this kid's strength grow little by little? Don't worry, this is the Pure Land Buddhist Temple, the territory of our Pure Land sect. There are plenty of opportunities. Monk Xuanluan's face was calm, but his eyes were also looking at Chu Fengmian with killing intent. Let's go. I know that there are several hidden places of our Buddhist experts. Some of the treasures can help you restore your strength. Chapter 1637. In this Tibetan burial ground, the real huge Tibetan burial ground has yet to open. Now is not the time to attack. When it opens, we will deal with that kid. After finishing his words, Monk Xuanluan's figure flashed and he flew toward a plane. Little Jianwang Hanyi took a deep look at Chu Fengmian's escaping light and followed after Monk Xuanluan. The real huge Tibetan burial ground? Could it be the Tibetan burial ground of the master of this Buddhist temple, the Buddha of Pure Land? Chu Fengmian's figure flew in the Tibetan burial ground. Chu Fengmian clearly heard the conversation between little Jianwang Hanyi and Monk Xuanluan just now. With the improvement of his strength, Chu Fengmian's current range of spiritual awareness had reached a radius of 20 miles. In addition to the Buddhist power of the Buddhist prayer beads, he could resist the suppression of the Buddhist restriction. His spiritual consciousness could explore a radius of 50 miles. Chu Fengmian overheard the conversation between the two. Even as early as the moment Chu Fengmian left the Buddhist temple, Chu Fengmian sensed the whereabouts of the two. However, Chu Fengmian did not attack. Monk Xuanluan had many trump cards and he also knew the secret skill of the Samsara sect, the 6 paths of reincarnation. With Chu Fengmian's current strength, it would not be easy to capture him alive. Now that countless treasures had opened in the Tibetan burial ground, time was tight. Chu Fengmian was not willing to spend a lot of time to deal with Monk Xuanluan. It was better to take advantage of this opportunity to plunder more treasures to improve his strength. As long as Chu Fengmian could step into the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, Chu Fengmian was confident that he could capture Monk Xuanluan alive no matter what kind of secret skills he had. Chu Fengmian flew in the Tibetan burial ground. At a glance, he saw many treasure lights shooting up into the sky from the Tibetan burial ground. Each of these treasure lights represented the opening of a tomb of a Buddhist expert in the Tibetan burial ground. Chu Fengmian took a rough glance and saw at least dozens of treasure lights, and this was only a part of the Tibetan burial ground. More and more warriors, demon immortals, and demons entered the Tibetan burial ground. There were battles for treasures from time to time. Yan Hanshi and the others had also left to search for treasures. With so many treasures, everyone was going crazy. The warriors and fey immortals of the various factions were engaged in a chaotic battle. However, Chu Fengmian suddenly realized that there wasn't a single disciple of the Pure Land Starfield. When he was outside, Chu Fengmian saw at least 100 Buddhist disciples from the Pure Land Starfield. It should be an extremely powerful force in the Hidden Land. However, Chu Fengmian did not see a single disciple of the Pure Land Starfield. These Pure Land Starfield disciples seemed to be hiding on purpose, waiting for an opportunity. Seems like these Pure Land Starfield disciples know a lot about the Pure Land Buddhist temple. Seems like the Pure Land sect came prepared this time. We have to be on our guard. Chu Fengmian suddenly recalled the words of Monk Xuanluan and the fact that he could control the Buddhist restriction in the mausoleum of the golden-bodied Buddha. The strength of the Xuanluan monk wasn't the biggest threat yet. However, once he could control these Buddhist seals, they would be the biggest threat to Lin Fan. Within the hidden ground, there were countless of Buddhist seals within the tombs. If these seals were to be used by the reincarnation monk, things would be extremely troublesome for Lin Fan. I have to be careful. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself. In the golden-bodied Buddha's mausoleum, Monk Xuanluan had used the Buddhist restriction in the mausoleum to trick Chu Fengmian. Although Chu Fengmian had turned danger into safety, he had to be more careful when exploring other Buddhist burial grounds in the future due to this incident. Just as Chu Fengmian was flying all the way in the Tibetan burial ground, looking for the mausoleum that was about to open. That is? Chu Fengmian's figure suddenly stopped in the air and looked ahead. About 40 miles ahead, several conveyance lights suddenly flew over. The power contained in these conveyance lights was extremely strong. There were at least 3 of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. Although the remaining 2 people were not at the level of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu, their strength was close to that of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. With such strength, he could be considered as one of the most tyrannical forces in the hidden ground. But what attracted Chu Fengmian's attention was the moment when the conveyance light flew over. In Chu Fengmian's body, the power of the human emperor jar suddenly awakened. A feeling of longing filled Chu Fengmian's mind. The power of the human emperor jar belongs to Yan Jun of the Yan family. Chu Fengmian suddenly probed with his spiritual consciousness. Among the 5 people, there was a young man dressed in luxurious clothes with an arrogant face. He was Yan Jun of the Yan family. The strength of this person was much stronger than the last time Chu Fengmian saw him. His strength was comparable to that of the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu. It seemed that this person had also gained a lot in this Tibetan burial ground. Beside him stood another young man. This person's aura was not weaker than Yan Jun's, and his status was not lower than Yan Jun's. He was on an equal footing with Yan Jun. Behind the 2 of them were 3 old men. All of them were at the level of the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu. Their strength was extremely strong. The strength of this group was almost equivalent to 5 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu. In this Tibetan burial ground, they were extremely strong. They flew all the way and slowly landed on a plain. They were going to snatch the treasures of the mausoleum that was open on the plain. The few warriors who opened the mausoleum were killed by them in a few moves. Immediately, the treasures fell into their hands. There are really countless treasures in this Tibetan burial ground. If this continues, I will have a chance to become Emperor Gu of the 9 Tribulations. Yan Jun of the Yan family collected the treasures in this Tibetan burial ground. He immediately took out the divine elixir pills and swallowed them. His aura became stronger as he exclaimed, "The treasures in every mausoleum here are several times more than the Tibetan burial ground opened in our Yan Luo star field. Moreover, it is not dangerous. The 9 regions is really a land of treasures. There are treasures everywhere. This is nothing. This used to be the Tibetan burial ground of the Pure Land sect. The Pure Land sect used to be a sect that dominated the 9 regions. There were countless experts born in it. Just the number of Buddha sovereigns above the celestial realm is unknown. The mausoleum that is open now is only a part of it. If we can get some of the treasures of the powerful Buddha sovereigns, it will be of great benefit to us." Another young man standing beside Yan Jun, Mujio from the Mu family, said aloud. Chapter 1638. That's right. According to the records, the 9 domains were once filled with experts, and there were countless people above the celestial realm. At that time, our Yan Luo starfield, the Daluotian starfield, the Pure Earth starfield, and the dozens of starfields near the 9 domains were all dominated by the 9 domains. During that era, our Yan Luo starfield respected the 9 domains. One of the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu, an elder of the Yan clan, who was standing behind Yan Jun, couldn't help but speak. It's a pity that the 9 domains are now in decline. They're nothing compared to the Daluotian starfield. However, the former glory of the 9 domains left behind a large number of treasures. It's a great opportunity to obtain these treasures. Humph, the natives of the 9 domains are not qualified to obtain these treasures. It's a waste for these treasures to fall into their hands. Yan Jun snorted coldly. His eyes were full of greed as he looked at the countless treasures that appeared in the treasury. If it weren't for the fact that our Yan Luo starfield received the news too late, we would have been able to obtain the countless treasures in the 9 domains. In the future, our Yan Luo starfield would surpass countless starfields and become one of the new sacred domains. By the way, Brother Yan, do you have any news about the fragments of the extreme immortal weapon? Mujio, who was in the Mu clan, suddenly asked. Even if it's just a fragment of an extreme immortal weapon, the power it contains is incomparably terrifying. If Brother Yan can obtain a fragment, it's enough to threaten a half-step celestial realm expert. Previously, outside the Pure Land Buddhist temple, Chu Fengmian had used the Emperor Jar to force the young emperor and the 5 elements Saber Saint to retreat. It had also caused the 2 of them to fight over the Emperor Jar. In the end, it had given Chu Fengmian an opportunity to escape into the Pure Land Buddhist temple. Mujio had seen all of this. The power of the Emperor Jar was still fresh in his memory. Chu Fengmian was only in the realm of the 8 Tribulations Emperor Gu. No matter how strong he was just an ant in front of a half-step celestial realm expert. However, using the Emperor Jar was enough to force the young emperor, who was infinitely close to the celestial realm, to retreat. It was enough to prove the power of the Emperor Jar. He could also see that the jar of the emperor in Chu Fengmian's hand was only a fragment. The other part of the Emperor Jar had fallen into the hands of Yan Jun of the Yan family. Now that the Mu family and the Yan family had joined forces, it was no longer a secret that Yan Jun possessed a fragment of the Emperor Jar. Not yet. However, that extreme Dao immortal armament fragment is most definitely in this temple. Merely, it has yet to appear. It might be hidden in some treasures. Hearing Mu Jiao's words, Yan Jun closed his eyes. He seemed to be activating his spiritual consciousness to investigate everything around him. However, I have a fragment of it. Once that extreme Dao celestial weapon appears, I can be the first to fight for it. Suddenly, Yan Jun's eyes flickered, revealing a murderous intent. It's a pity that I didn't manage to kill Chu Fengmian earlier. Otherwise, it would have been much easier for me to search for the others after obtaining the fragment of the extreme immortal weapon. In terms of strength alone, the Emperor Jar in Chu Fengmian's hand was definitely much more powerful than the fragment in his hand. After all, Yan Jun wasn't confident that he could activate the power of the fragment of the Emperor Jar to force the young emperor to retreat. It's a pity that this person most likely died in the hands of the young emperor or the 5 Elements Saber Saint. Being targeted by 2 half-step celestial realm experts, no matter how many tricks this brat has up his sleeve, he'll definitely die. Mu Jiao of the Mu family said coldly. However, just as this person's voice sounded, a sword glow suddenly appeared in the sky. Soon after, a figure swooped down. The sword light was aimed at Mu Jiao's chest. It was a sudden attack. The sword light burst out almost soundlessly. The person who attacked was Chu Fengmian. Previously, Yan Jun had led the people of the Yan family to launch a sneak attack on Chu Fengmian. This time, seeing Yan Jun and the others, Chu Fengmian didn't hold back and suddenly attacked. Moreover, Yan Jun had the fragment of the Emperor Jar that Chu Fengmian coveted. It was reasonable that Chu Fengmian wouldn't let them go. Originally, Chu Fengmian was going to kill Yan Jun first, but Mu Jiao dared to say that Chu Fengmian would definitely die. Chu Fengmian had to teach him a lesson now. Chu Fengmian didn't hold back and activated his sword will to the extreme. Instead of calling it a sneak attack, it was better to call it a sudden attack. It turned into a 1,000-foot-long sword aura that enveloped down. Young lord, watch out! Before Mu Jiao could react to the sudden attack of the sword light, an old man behind him suddenly roared and looked up at the sky. A gigantic 8 trigrams shield appeared in his hand, and he raised it up abruptly. Chu Fengmian's sword light bombarded the 8 trigrams shield, but it only forced the old man back. You have some tricks up your sleeve. Chu Fengmian's eyes showed some surprise when he saw that the old man blocked his sword light. If it had been an ordinary Emperor Gu of the 9 Tribulations, he wouldn't have been unable to react to the sudden attack of the sword, but it wouldn't have been easy for him to block it in a hurry. However, this old man of the Mu clan had blocked Chu Fengmian's sword light. However, Chu Fengmian could also see that the old man was able to block Chu Fengmian's sword light not because of his strength, but because of the 8 trigrams shield in his hand. The 8 trigrams shield contained the power of the 8 trigrams. It was extremely mysterious and complemented each other. Chu Fengmian's sword light bombarded the shield and at least 90% of its power had been neutralized. The remaining 10% of its power could only force the old man of the Mu clan to retreat, but it couldn't hurt him at all. Who is it? Mu Jiao only reacted at this time and looked in the direction of Chu Fengmian with a furious expression. If it wasn't for the old man behind him who reacted in time, he would have died under the sword's edge. This sudden attack was impossible to guard against. Yan Jun and the other 2 Emperor Gu of the 9 Tribulations of the Yan clan also looked over. When they saw Chu Fengmian's figure, their faces suddenly changed. Chu Fengmian? Chu Fengmian, you still dare to show up? I was just looking for you to kill you, and now you've delivered yourself to me. Elders, let's kill this man together. Yan Jun saw Chu Fengmian's figure and laughed loudly. He immediately gathered his spiritual power and attacked Chu Fengmian with his palm. Yan Jun had been looking for Chu Fengmian and snatching the Emperor Jar since he came to this Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. Now that Chu Fengmian appeared, he attacked without hesitation. Chapter 1639. Chu Fengmian, you still dare to appear? I was just looking for you to kill you, and now you've delivered yourself to my doorstep. Elders, let's kill this man together. Yan Jun saw Chu Fengmian's figure and laughed. He immediately gathered his spiritual power and attacked Chu Fengmian with his palm. Yan Jun had been looking for Chu Fengmian to snatch the Emperor Jar since he came to the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. Now that Chu Fengmian had appeared, he attacked without hesitation. The two Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations of the Yan family behind him also attacked together. The two elders of the Yan family attacked together. The spiritual power of the two of them was very similar, and it seemed that they had cultivated the same kind of cultivation technique. They gathered their spiritual power and attacked together. It was a kind of joint attack technique. It was said that only brothers who were of the same mind could cultivate this technique. It was difficult to cultivate. These two elders of the Yan family had cultivated the art of planning to the point where they were close to mastering it. The two of them attacked together and gathered their spiritual power as if they were a martial artist. However, this martial artist had the power of two Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations. This was much more tyrannical than the power of two Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations. Even if there were 3 or even 4 Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations attacking together, they might not be a match for the two elders of the Yan family. The technique of joint attack is really something. Chu Fengmian's eyes showed some seriousness. The power of the Yan Luo star field was not inferior to that of the Daluo star field, and the Yan family was one of the 4 major families of the Yan Luo star field. They must have some foundation. Just this technique of joint attack alone was very powerful. He was afraid that people like little Jianwang Han Yi and Master Huang would come. It would be very troublesome to encounter the two elders of the Yan family. With such strength, it was no wonder that Yan Jun did not want to escape when he saw Chu Fengmian. Instead, he wanted to kill Chu Fengmian and snatch the fragment of the Emperor Jar. However, Chu Fengmian was even able to fight against young Master Phoenix, little Jianwang Han Yi, and Monk Xuan Luan. These 3 invincible experts were besieging Chu Fengmian. Not to mention the two elders of the Yan family. One sword breaks the firmament. The ancestral dragon supreme sword in Chu Fengmian's hand was condensed with spiritual energy. It contained a sharp blade and instantly slashed down. It collided with the combined attack of the two elders of the Yan family. The power of Chu Fengmian's sword was extremely strong. The combined technique of the two elders of the Yan family was directly destroyed. Not good, don't hold back anymore. Attack, use your killer moves. The two elders of the Yan family didn't expect Chu Fengmian's strength to be this strong. The most powerful joint attack of the Yan family had been broken so easily by Chu Fengmian. The two of them had originally thought that they wouldn't need to waste too many tricks to deal with a mere 8 tribulations Emperor Gu. But to their surprise, the ant-like Chu Fengmian was actually a true dragon. Martial world. The two elders of the Yan family suddenly roared at the same time. With this roar, the spiritual energy in their bodies burst out. They had brought out their absolute trump cards. Behind the two of them, illusory figures began to condense. Each of these illusory figures had a strong martial arts power. They were all experts of the Yan clan. The Yan family was also a well-known family in the Yan Luo starfield. After 10,000 years, it had given birth to countless experts. Thus, when the two elders of the Yan family took action, they condensed the illusory figures of countless experts of the Yan family and added them to their bodies. In an instant, the martial energy of the two elders was raised to the extreme. The power of their bodies also increased by countless times. Useless struggle. Chu Fengmian sneered. Looking at the rising power of the two elders of the Yan family, the corner of his mouth revealed a cold smile. However, the sword intent behind Chu Fengmian was also condensing. It soared into the sky and turned into a sword light, condensing on the blade of Chu Fengmian's sword. Die, both of you! Rumble! Wherever the sword light passed, everything turned into nothingness. The most powerful sword intent in the world burst out at this moment. Chu Fengmian's sword light bombarded. The joint attack of the two elders of the Chen family and the shadows of the experts of the Yan family condensed behind them were all destroyed. At this moment, all of them were defeated. The spiritual energy was extremely violent. The rebounding force smashed onto the bodies of the two Chen clan elders. The two of them spat out a large mouthful of blood essence. The impact caused them to spit out blood directly. How can this person be so terrifying? The two elders retreated continuously. They wanted to avoid Chu Fengmian's sword, but it was too late. Chu Fengmian's body suddenly moved. He rushed to the front of the two elders of the Yan family in a single step, each holding a sword. The bodies of the two elders of the Yan family immediately turned into a cloud of blood mist. They were killed on the spot. Chu Fengmian did not let go of their blood essence. He activated the sky-devouring secret skill. The realm of the two Emperor Gu of the Nine Tribulations was immediately devoured by the sky-devouring secret skill. It operated and turned into pure spiritual energy, pouring into Chu Fengmian's body. The two elders of the Chen family, Emperor Gu of the Nine Tribulations, were suddenly killed by Chu Fengmian in a single move. Even when the two of them used all their trump cards, it did not change the result. This made Yan Jun and the two elders of the Mu family unable to believe what they had seen for a moment. The joint attack of the Yan family was famous in the Yan Luo star field. Even in the Daluo star field and the Pure Land star field, the joint attack of the Yan family was in existence that countless experts feared. However, the two elders of the Yan family did not even struggle in the hands of Chu Fengmian. They were killed by Chu Fengmian in a single move. You want to kill me with just the few of you? How dare you scheme against me? After Chu Fengmian killed the two elders of the Yan family, he immediately looked at Yan Jun and Mu Jiao. The two of them had always wanted to scheme against Chu Fengmian. They wanted to deal with Chu Fengmian and seize the fragment of the Emperor Jar. Chu Fengmian was well aware of this. This time, Chu Fengmian did not show any mercy when he attacked. He wanted to kill all of them at once and not give them a chance to cause trouble for Chu Fengmian again. How is it possible? The two elders of the Yan family died just like that? Yan Jun had been watching the two elders of the Yan family being killed by Chu Fengmian and their blood essence being devoured by Chu Fengmian. He was stunned for a moment and could not believe what had happened. The last time he fought with Chu Fengmian, the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu did not exist at that time. Chapter 1640. This time, Yan Jun came to the 9 regions to collect the treasure. The 2 Yan clan elders beside him could be considered as the strongest among the Yan clan elders. Many 9 Tribulation ancient emperors had died under the combined attack of the two. Even in Yan Jun's wildest dreams, he did not expect Chu Fengmian's growth to be so terrifying in just a few days. The 2 Mu clan elders beside him also stared at Chu Fengmian with pale faces. They originally thought that Chu Fengmian was a fat piece of meat sent to their doorstep, so they were willing to join forces with Yan Jun to deal with Chu Fengmian. But now, Chu Fengmian was not a fat piece of meat. He was a real dragon, a lion. They were the fat pieces of meat that were at his mercy. Young lord, I'll delay this person. You escape and let the experts of our Mu clan come and kill this person. The Mu clan elder looked at Chu Fengmian with tenacity in his eyes. He suddenly attacked Chu Fengmian with a palm strike. Mu Jiao of the Mu clan did not hesitate. He hurriedly turned his head and turned into a ray of light to escape into the distance. Trying to escape? You think an old man like you can stop me? Chu Fengmian sneered when he saw the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu of the Mu clan attack. He suddenly put away his sword and attacked the Mu clan elder with his bare hands. Second move of the primogenitor. Rumble. As Chu Fengmian's bloodline became purer and closer to that of primogenitor Jianwang, the power of the 9 moves of the primogenitor also became more terrifying. the 9 moves of the primogenitor were also activated by the power of the bloodline. However, the power of the 9 moves of the primogenitor was also more powerful because of the noble bloodline of the dragon clan. Even though it was the second move of the 9 moves of the primogenitor, it was completely different from the one Chu Fengmian used previously. As the move was launched, the spiritual energy in the sky condensed and the dragons danced. It was as if the world was full of dragons, as if they had returned to the era when dragons ruled the world. And Chu Fengmian was the emperor of the dragons, the master of the dragons. The power of the dragons condensed in Chu Fengmian's palm and launched a move. The power of the Mu clan elder's palm was immediately broken. At the same time, the power of the dragons bombarded the Mu clan elder. 8 trigrams. God bless. When the old man saw the power of the dragons descending, he hurriedly raised the 8 trigrams shield in his hand and injected all his spiritual power into it. Countless runes appeared on the 8 trigrams shield, forming an 8 trigrams formation that protected his body. You want to block my power with a mere spiritual weapon? Break! Chu Fengmian shouted coldly. Dragons roared and bombarded the 8 trigrams formation with the power of dragons. Crack! The 8 trigrams formation was blasted apart by the power of the dragons. Even the 8 trigrams shield was sent flying in an instant. Then, Chu Fengmian reached out with his claw and the 8 trigrams shield fell into his palm. The 8 trigrams shield was able to withstand Chu Fengmian's sword. It was also a rare treasure. Moreover, Chu Fengmian could see that the old man from the Mu family was unable to display the full power of the 8 trigram shield. Of course, Chu Fengmian would not let go of such a treasure. He held the 8 trigram shield in his palm and injected a surge of spiritual power into it. Suddenly, the mark that originally belonged to the old man from the Mu family was erased from the 8 trigram shield and became Chu Fengmian's mark. Puff! After losing the 8 trigram shield, the old man from the Mu family could not withstand the bombardment of the power of the dragons. His body was immediately crushed. His blood essence was also absorbed by Chu Fengmian into the sky-devouring secret technique. At the same time, on the other side, Mu Jiao from the Mu family activated his escape light and was about to escape from the plane. He just turned his head and happened to see the scene where Chu Fengmian killed the old man from the Mu family in one move. It made him tremble with fear. This man is definitely a monster. In our Yanluo starfield, even the most monstrous geniuses are not as terrifying as this man. I wonder how many opportunities he has. My Mu family's experts are about to arrive at the 9 regions. If I can kill him and get these opportunities, no one in the Yanluo starfield can compete with me. Mu Jiao's eyes were filled with fear, but there was a hint of greed and excitement. As long as he could escape, he could find the experts of the Mu family to besiege Chu Fengmian. Once he killed Chu Fengmian, all of Chu Fengmian's opportunities would belong to him. Tianlong change. Seal. Just as Mu Jiao was about to escape from the plane, suddenly, a long roar resounded in the plane. Mu Jiao's figure suddenly stopped in the air. His escape light gradually disappeared in the air. The surrounding spatial energy condensed to the extreme and turned into layers of cages, locking him in. No matter how Mu Jiao activated his escape light, he could not take another step forward. You still want to find the experts of your family to deal with me? Unfortunately, you won't have the chance today. Get back here! Suddenly, Chu Fengmian's voice sounded from behind Mu Jiao. This voice was like the voice of the Grim Reaper. At the same time, an invisible hand shrouded Mu Jiao's body and tried to pull him back. Golden cicada shell shedding. Mu Jiao erupted all the spiritual energy in his body. A golden light appeared from his body. This golden light seemed to want to break free from the Tianlong change's seal and escape to the sky. Humph! A cold snort was heard. The formless hand abruptly clenched its fists and grabbed Mu Jiao. Its fingers pierced into the golden light around Mu Jiao and crushed it. Boom! Mu Jiao's body was also caught in the palm of the invisible hand. In the next moment, he was pulled back to the plane and knelt in front of Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian, you can't kill me. You should know that there are many experts in my Mu family. My Mu family is on the same level as the Sacred Dragon Secret Realm. You are just a disciple of the Daluo Starfield's Sacred Dragon Secret Realm. I am the young master of the Mu family. If you dare to kill me, the Sacred Dragon Secret Realm won't be able to protect you. Mujio hurriedly shouted when he saw the killing intent in Chu Fengmian's eyes. Is that so? Mu family? I'd like to see who from the Mu family dares to avenge you. I'll kill whoever comes. It just so happens that I need Emperor Gu's blood essence to consolidate my realm. Today, Chu Fengmian had already killed one of the Mu family's 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. Even if he let Mujio go, the Mu family would not let Chu Fengmian go. It was better to kill them all. Moreover, Mujio wanted to ask the experts of the Mu family to deal with Chu Fengmian. He was courting death. Die! Chu Fengmian clapped his hand and Mujio's body was immediately crushed. Chapter 1641. When Yan Jun saw this scene, he was frightened out of his wits. Mujio was the young master of the Mu family. In terms of status, he was nobler than him. Although the Yan family was stronger than the Mu family in the Daluo Star Field, Yan Jun was not the young master of the Mu family. However, Yan Jun was not the Yan clan's young master. Instead, he was only a genius disciple of the Yan clan. Mujio, on the other hand, was the Mu clan's young master. Killing Mujio almost meant that he had to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Mu family. This was something that even the 5 Elements Saber Saint, an invincible expert who was half a step into the celestial being realm, had to think twice about it. But now, Chu Fengmian killed him without hesitation. It seemed that Chu Fengmian did not take Mujio's threat seriously at all. After killing Mujio, Chu Fengmian's eyes fell on Yan Jun. The moment Chu Fengmian's gaze landed on Yan Jun, he couldn't help but shudder and tremble. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Yan Jun looked at Chu Fengmian with a pale face and a trembling voice. Chu Fengmian, let me go. I know you are here for the Extreme Path Immortal Weapon Fragment. As long as you are willing to let me go, I am willing to give you the Extreme Path Immortal Weapon Fragment. Yan Jun said hurriedly, fearing that Chu Fengmian would kill him. Moreover, I can help you hide the fact that you killed Mujio. The Mu family's power is not something you can contend with. If you let me go, I will help you hide it. The Mu family will not be able to find you. Oh? Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered as he listened to Yan Jun's words. He seemed to be thinking about it. Chu Fengmian looked at Yan Jun and thought for a moment. He said coldly, hand over the Extreme Path Immortal Weapon Fragment first. Promise me that you will let me go first. Yan Jun said hurriedly when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. You are not qualified to negotiate with me. Hand over the Extreme Path Immortal Weapon Fragment, or I will kill you now. Chu Fengmian's eyes were cold as he looked at Yan Jun with killing intent. All right, I will give it to you now. Yan Jun's face turned even paler when he saw this gaze. His eyes were filled with fear as he quickly opened the empty ring. An ancient tile flew out from the spatial ring. Chu Fengmian looked over and could tell at a glance that this ancient tile was a fragment of the Runhuang jar. However, Yan Jun's luck was not as good as Chu Fengmian's. Chu Fengmian already had 5 fragments of the Runhuang jar. However, Yan Jun only had 1 fragment in his hands. However, with each additional fragment of the Emperor jar, the power of the Emperor jar would increase 10-fold. With the piece in Yan Jun's hands, Chu Fengmian would have a lot more confidence when fighting against Young Emperor and 5 Elements Saber Saint, who were half a step away from the celestial realm. Hurry up. Chu Fengmian said coldly when he saw Yan Jun's hesitation. All right. Although Yan Jun's eyes were filled with reluctance, he still threw out the fragment of the Emperor jar. With a wave of Chu Fengmian's hand, the fragment fell into his palm. The familiar spiritual power contained in it proved that the broken tile in front of him was one of the fragments of the Emperor jar. The moment he saw the fragment of the Emperor jar fall into Chu Fengmian's palm, Yan Jun's eyes suddenly turned cold. The divine power of the human emperor. Boom! The fragment of the Emperor jar in Chu Fengmian's palm shook violently, and an incomparably tyrannical power erupted from it. Chu Fengmian, I didn't have a chance to kill you, but you're too greedy. How dare you take the fragment of the Emperor jar? I've already refined the fragment of the Emperor jar. Have a taste of the power of the Emperor jar. Yan Jun's face was incomparably ferocious. He had just pretended to be terrified because he was waiting for this scene. The moment Chu Fengmian took the fragment of the Emperor's jar, the power that he had left behind in the fragment suddenly erupted. The fragment of the Emperor jar had been refined by Yan Jun, and it erupted with power under his control. At such a close distance, Emperor Gu of the Nine Tribulations would undoubtedly die if he were to bear the power of the fragment of the Emperor jar. With this move, Yan Jun had schemed against who knew how many powerhouses. Although the fragment of the Emperor jar was a supreme treasure, it was now refined by Yan Jun. If it fell into the hands of others, it would be a bomb. Billowing spiritual power erupted from the fragment of the Emperor jar. The power of the ancient human emperor descended and swept through everything in the surroundings. Quell the unrest. Chu Fengmian's face was extremely calm. When he saw the power erupting from the fragment of the Emperor jar, he shouted coldly. An ancient jar appeared in his palm. Although the jar was broken, the power it contained was much more tyrannical than the fragment of the Emperor jar. Yan Jun only had one fragment of the Emperor jar in his hand. However, Chu Fengmian had a total of 5 fragments of the Emperor jar. When the ancient jar appeared, a wave of spiritual power surged out. In Chu Fengmian's palm, the spiritual power that erupted from the fragment of the Emperor jar suddenly stagnated. The condensed power of the human emperor also began to shatter layer by layer and began to collapse. Yan Jun, you want to trick me too? Unfortunately, you only have one fragment. No matter how many you refine, you can't resist my power. Chu Fengmian sneered and injected a wave of spiritual power into the Emperor jar. Immediately, the jar in Chu Fengmian's palm erupted with the power of the human emperor. The power of the human emperor enveloped the fragment of the Emperor jar and immediately suppressed the power of the fragment. At the same time, Chu Fengmian also made a move. A wave of spiritual power was injected into the fragment of the Emperor jar to erase the mark left by Yan Jun. How is this possible? How can you have so many fragments? Yan Jun shouted in disbelief when he saw that Chu Fengmian's Emperor jar contained a total of 5 fragments. It was already a great opportunity for him to obtain such a fragment. In the entire Yanluo starfield, he was the only one who could possess it. Although Yan Jun knew that Chu Fengmian should have more than one fragment of the Emperor jar, he guessed that Chu Fengmian only had about 2, or even 3 at most. He never imagined that Chu Fengmian had already monopolized 5 of the 9 fragments of the Emperor jar. The power of the 5 fragments of the Emperor jar was activated at the same time. Although Yan Jun had refined the fragment of the Emperor jar countless times, its power was firmly suppressed. His plan to use the fragment of the Emperor jar to sneak up on Chu Fengmian was completely destroyed. Chapter 1642. According to Yan Jun's original plan, even if the Emperor jar fragment couldn't kill Chu Fengmian, it could still give him a chance to escape. But now, not only did the power of the Emperor jar fragment not explode, but it was also suppressed by Chu Fengmian. Boom! The mark left by Yan Jun in the Emperor jar fragment was constantly being erased by Chu Fengmian's spiritual power. Once the mark left by Yan Jun was completely erased, the Emperor jar fragment would also become an ownerless object. Reversal of heaven and earth. Reshape heaven and earth. Yan Jun suddenly spat out a large mouthful of essence blood, which began to burn fiercely. He condensed a large amount of spiritual power from the essence blood and hit the Emperor jar. The Emperor jar fragment was Yan Jun's last trump card. He didn't hesitate to burn his essence blood to protect the Emperor jar fragment and prevent Chu Fengmian from refining it. With the injection of spiritual power, the Emperor jar fragment, which had been firmly suppressed, began to shake violently. With the help of a force, it even began to resist the suppression of the Emperor jar, trying to break free from Chu Fengmian's hands. Humph, you want to take it back? This fragment belongs to me. The spear of the Emperor. Break! Chu Fengmian sneered and grabbed the Emperor jar in his hand. Suddenly, the Emperor jar in Chu Fengmian's hand turned into the spear of the Emperor jar and stabbed at the Emperor jar fragment. No matter how many fragments of the Emperor jar had been refined by Yan Jun, it only had the power of one fragment after all. The spear of the Emperor that Chu Fengmian had condensed now contained the power of 5 fragments of the Emperor jar. The moment it blasted down, crack! The power on the Emperor jar fragment that still wanted to resist was immediately shattered. It no longer struggled and the mark that belonged to Yan Jun was completely erased. With the mark erased, the Emperor jar fragment became an ownerless object. Chu Fengmian gathered a stream of spiritual energy in his palm and injected it into the fragment of the Emperor jar. Immediately, Chu Fengmian's mark was injected into the Emperor jar fragment and refined by Chu Fengmian. The moment the fragment was refined by Chu Fengmian, it flew toward the ancient jar and merged with the fragment. The 6th fragment of the Emperor jar was in his hands. When the 6th fragment of the Emperor jar fused with it, Chu Fengmian could sense that the power of the Emperor jar had increased tenfold. The power and aura it contained were completely different from before. Yan Jun's face turned ghastly pale when he saw this. He had schemed against Chu Fengmian for a long time, but now he had suffered a double loss. The 2 Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu of the Yan clan had both died in Chu Fengmian's hands. Now that the fragment of the Emperor jar had been taken away and refined by Chu Fengmian, he was now in an extremely dangerous situation. Flawless. Formless divine shadow. The moment Yan Jun saw Chu Fengmian refining the Emperor jar fragment, he understood that he no longer had any chance to deal with Chu Fengmian this time. Immediately, Yan Jun took advantage of the spiritual power that had yet to disappear after burning his blood essence and unleashed an ancient secret technique. His figure gradually disappeared in front of Chu Fengmian. The figure disappeared without a trace. Not even the slightest fluctuation of spiritual power could be seen, as if he had disappeared into thin air. Chu Fengmian, I will definitely spread the news that you have the Emperor jar. You can just wait for the endless pursuit of countless experts. Don't even think about getting what I can't get. The moment Yan Jun disappeared, he left behind a sentence in an extremely arrogant voice. Is that so? You want to spread the news? You don't have the chance. Get out here. Chu Fengmian's face was extremely calm. He gathered spiritual power in his palm and suddenly grabbed at the void where Yan Jun had just been. At the place where Yan Jun was just now, there was no longer a single person. But as Chu Fengmian reached out his hand, the void began to shatter. In this void, a figure was suddenly caught by Chu Fengmian's palm. How could you find me? This figure was none other than Yan Jun. Yan Jun looked at Chu Fengmian with horror. Chu Fengmian was too terrifying. He had invincible strength and powerful trump cards. Now, even his secret technique could not be hidden from Chu Fengmian's eyes. The secret technique he had just displayed seemed to be to escape by driving the escape light, but in fact, he was hiding in the depths of the void. He was in the same place and did not move. But his figure was hidden in the depths of the void. Almost no one could see his figure. He had deceived countless people with this move. Even experts half a step away from the celestial realm might not be able to see through it. But now, it was directly exposed by Chu Fengmian. Ridiculous. Chu Fengmian looked at Yan Jun as if he was looking at a joke. Chu Fengmian had the bloodline of ancestor Jianwang. His control of space was unparalleled. Even he did not notice the existence of the spatial fluctuation just now. If Yan Jun's escape light could even deceive Chu Fengmian, then this person was probably an expert of the celestial realm. Therefore, Chu Fengmian could see at a glance that Yan Jun was just hiding his figure. As Chu Fengmian made a move, he grabbed his figure and pulled it out. Yan Jun's figure was caught in Chu Fengmian's palm. He could not escape even if he wanted to. Let me go. Let me go. I'm willing to help you deal with the Mu family and even the Yan family. I know all the secrets of the major families in the Yan Luo star field. I also know the location of many secret treasures in the Yan Luo star field. Yan Jun kept begging in Chu Fengmian's palm. This time, he was not scheming against Chu Fengmian. He was really scared out of his wits. However, Chu Fengmian didn't care about his pleas at all. His expression was ice-cold as he exerted force in his palm. Amid the screams, Yan Jun was thrown into the sky-devouring mystic technique. The sky-devouring secret technique was activated. Soon, Yan Jun's body was destroyed. The essence and blood in his body were mercilessly devoured by the sky-devouring secret technique and turned into Chu Fengmian's power. At the same time, Chu Fengmian found a large number of rare items and ancient saint elixirs in the empty rings of Yan Jun, Mujio, and the others. They had gained a lot in the treasury, not to mention that they had also obtained a large number of treasures in the 9 regions. Each of their empty rings was shockingly rich. These treasures originally belonged to the 9 regions. Now that they had fallen into Chu Fengmian's hands, it could be considered as returning them to their rightful owners. Chu Fengmian did not hold back. He threw all of these rare items and ancient saint elixirs into the sky-devouring secret technique and turned them into pure spiritual power. In Chu Fengmian's body, drops of ancient battle dragon blood essence were constantly devouring the spiritual power and began to transform into dragon emperor blood essence. Chapter 1643. Chu Fengmian sat on this plane. A gigantic dragon shadow appeared behind him, containing an incomparably tyrannical aura. With the condensation of drops of dragon emperor's blood essence, Chu Fengmian's aura became more and more tyrannical. 3,000 drops. As Chu Fengmian slowly opened his eyes, the amount of dragon emperor's blood essence in Chu Fengmian's body had reached 3,000 drops. These 3,000 drops of dragon emperor's blood essence had reached a small bottleneck, and Chu Fengmian also stopped cultivating. The illusory image of the dragon emperor behind Chu Fengmian also gradually dissipated. During this period, Chu Fengmian had killed many experts. First, he killed young Master Huang, then he destroyed little Yao Wang Hanya's flesh and devoured 90% of his blood essence. This time, Chu Fengmian also killed martial artists from the Yan and Mu families. Yan Jun and Mujio's true strength had almost reached the level of the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu. This time, Chu Fengmian had directly devoured the blood essence of 5 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu. In addition, Chu Fengmian's strength had skyrocketed during this period of time with the large number of ancient sacred elixirs and heavenly oddities obtained from these people's empty rings. It was time to restrain himself and consolidate his realm. Although Chu Fengmian could still increase his strength by a lot if he forcibly increased his strength, Chu Fengmian was not a short-sighted person. His future goal was the Celestial Realm, or even the peak of the Celestial Realm, the 9th Order Immortal Emperor. Naturally, it was impossible to destabilize his foundation for a short period of strength improvement. With 3,000 drops of Dragon Emperor's blood essence, Chu Fengmian's current strength was already unrivaled among the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu. It was time to stop for a while and consolidate his realm. Moreover, Chu Fengmian also needed a lot of resources to break through to the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu. Taking advantage of this period of time, Chu Fengmian could also accumulate resources and look for an opportunity to break through to the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu. Now, with the increase of Chu Fengmian's strength, the commotion caused by his cultivation was also getting bigger and bigger. Just now, when Chu Fengmian was sitting on the plane and breaking through, it attracted the attention of several martial artists. Among them, a few Emperor Gu wanted to take advantage of Chu Fengmian's cultivation to launch a sneak attack. However, some 7 Emperor Gu and 8 Tribulations Emperor Gu dared to sneak attack Chu Fengmian Emperor Gu. And 8 Emperor Gu. There was no need for Chu Fengmian to make a move. The spiritual power of the Dragon Emperor Shadow alone was enough to kill all the 7 and 8 Calamity Ancient Emperors. The remaining martial artists and Yao gods all retreated after seeing this scene. They didn't dare to provoke Chu Fengmian anymore. I didn't expect the Yan family to have already extended their hands into the Daluo star field. It looks like the people of the Yan Luo star field have been coveting the treasures of the 9 domains for a long time. Fengmian Femperor Emperor Emperors Emperor 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 while he was cultivating, Chu Fengmian had also extracted Yan Jun's memory and obtained a lot of information about the Emperor Yan's Emperor Yan. What surprised Chu Fengmian the most was that the Yan family had already extended their hands into the Daluo star domain. In the Daluo star domain, there was a chamber of commerce called the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce. The Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce wasn't considered one of the largest star domains in the Daluo star domain, but it had a little reputation. There were branches of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce on many continents in the Daluo star domain. The owner of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce was the Yan family. Only a few people in the Yan family knew about this secret, let alone outside. No one in the entire Daluo star domain knew about it. Yan Jun was considered one of the geniuses that the Yan family had nurtured with all their efforts. He was a genius that had the hope of competing for the position of the next patriarch of the Yan family. That was why he knew the whole secret. Yan Jun and the others of the Yan family had also relied on the news of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce in the Daluo star domain to be the first batch of people to arrive at the 9 regions. For example, Yan Jun and the others had arrived at the 9 regions a step ahead of the cultivators of the 4 major forces of the Daluo star domain. That was why they had seized the opportunity to seize a large amount of treasures. However, a large number of the treasures had already been transported to the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce. Although Chu Fengmian had killed Yan Jun, what was in Yan Jun's spatial ring was only a small part of what the Yan family had obtained. The real bulk was in the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce. It had already been transported out of the 9 regions to the headquarters of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce, the Flying Abyss continent. I'll find an opportunity to loot the treasury of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself. In Yan Jun's memory, the treasures of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce could be said to be endless. At the very least, it was thousands of times more than what was in Yan Jun's spatial ring. If he could loot all the treasures in the treasury of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce, Chu Fengmian would have the resources he needed to break through to the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu. However, now wasn't the time. The Flying Abyss continent was extremely far away from the 9 regions. Even for Chu Fengmian, it would take more than 10 days for a round trip. Now, Chu Fengmian didn't have more than 10 days to waste. He had to wait for the upheaval in the 9 regions. After some time had passed and things had calmed down, Chu Fengmian would go to the Flying Abyss continent. In any case, there were countless treasures piled up in the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce. Even if the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce wanted to transport them all back to the Yanluo star domain, it wouldn't be possible in a short period of time. The matter of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce was just an unexpected surprise for Chu Fengmian. Previously, Chu Fengmian was also curious as to why the cultivators of the Yan family had arrived at the Crimson Continent faster than him. Therefore, Chu Fengmian deliberately left behind Yan Jun's memory. After some investigation, he discovered the matter of the Flying Abyss Chamber of Commerce. Of course, this time, Chu Fengmian's greatest gain from killing Yan Jun and the others was none other than the Emperor Jar. With a thought, the Emperor Jar appeared in front of Chu Fengmian. There were a total of 9 fragments of the Emperor Jar. Chu Fengmian had already obtained 6 of them. Now that the Emperor Jar had appeared, a part of it had already been repaired. At the same time, some of the broken lines began to condense. About half of it had been restored. An ancient and powerful force of the human emperor emanated from it. The Emperor Jar was no longer a fragment. It was more like a damaged spiritual weapon. Faintly, one could see the sharpness of the Emperor Jar when it was at its peak. Halberd, out! Chu Fengmian's mind flickered and the Emperor Jar transformed into an ancient bronze halberd in his hand. The halberd of the human emperor. The ancient bronze halberd in Chu Fengmian's hand was vast and mighty, intimidating the heavens. Although the halberd of the human emperor and the spear of the human emperor were both transformed from the Emperor Jar, the power it contained was completely different. The power contained in the spear of the human emperor was unstoppable and could break everything. Chapter 1644. The ancient human emperor had enlightened all living beings. In many ancient books, it was recorded that the human clan was at its weakest in the era of the ancient human emperor. Not only the divine beasts and wild beasts, but even the barbarians and the demon clan viewed the human clan as nothing more than grass and food. According to legend, the human emperor used his spear to kill countless experts and swept away all his enemies. This was the origin of the spear. Then, he used the spear to sweep away the chaos and pacify the world. This was the human emperor's spear. In the end, he used the sword to set the rules and establish the human clan's current status. Few people knew that the three legendary weapons of the human emperor were all transformed from the human emperor's jar. This was not recorded in the ancient books. Later, Chu Fengmian learned about this when he used the jar to condense the human emperor's spear. When Chu Fengmian obtained the sixth fragment of the human emperor's jar, he could use the jar to condense the human emperor's spear. What Chu Fengmian wanted to condense the most was the legendary human emperor's sword. After all, Chu Fengmian was a sword cultivator. Only with a spiritual sword could he unleash his strongest strength. However, the current human emperor's jar could not condense the human emperor's sword. But as Chu Fengmian obtained more and more fragments of the jar, the power of the human emperor's spear would grow stronger. The power of the mortal emperor jar would grow stronger and stronger, and eventually return to the level of an ultimate immortal weapon. At that time, the human emperor's spear, as an extreme immortal weapon, would be at its strongest. I have obtained the fragment of the human emperor's jar in Yan Jun's hands. Next, I will look for the fragment of the human emperor's jar in the Pure Land Buddhist temple. Chu Fengmian quietly put away the human emperor's spear and returned to the appearance of the human emperor's jar. After obtaining the sixth fragment of the human emperor's jar, its power had increased significantly. Each fragment of the emperor jar was enough to strengthen the emperor jar by 10 times. This time, Chu Fengmian returned to the 9 domains with the original purpose of obtaining the fragment of the human emperor's jar. The fragment in Yan Jun's hands was a pleasant surprise for Chu Fengmian. There was another fragment of the human emperor's jar in the Pure Land Buddhist temple. However, Chu Fengmian was suppressed by the power of Buddhism in the hidden ground. As a result, his spiritual awareness was unable to reach out. Therefore, he was unable to detect the traces of the emperor jar fragment. However, Chu Fengmian was certain that the fragment of the emperor jar was in this hidden place. Most likely, it was the burial object of a powerful Buddha of the Pure Land school, buried in a mausoleum. Now that I have 6 fragments of the Runhuang jar, I should be more sensitive to the aura of the other fragments. Chu Fengmian quietly infused a stream of spiritual energy into the emperor jar. Instantly, a stream of pure spiritual energy emerged from the jar. This stream of spiritual energy spread out and investigated everything in the surroundings. After all, the mortal emperor jar was an extreme Dao immortal weapon. Even though it was already broken, the power it possessed still belonged to an extreme Dao immortal weapon. Compared to Chu Fengmian's current spiritual power, it was of a higher level. The suppression of the Buddhist restriction on the ground would also be greatly reduced. Soon, he found a direction in Chu Fengmian's mind. The emperor jar seemed to have sensed the aura of the other fragments and pointed Chu Fengmian in a direction. However, the distance was not close, so Chu Fengmian was unable to detect the exact location. At least, he had a direction. It was better than Chu Fengmian looking for it alone like a headless fly. Let's go. I'll take advantage of the fact that the hidden ground mausoleums have not opened yet to find the fragment of the emperor jar to increase my strength. Chu Fengmian's figure flickered. After detecting the fragment with the help of the emperor jar, Chu Fengmian did not hesitate. He turned into a stream of light and flew in the direction indicated by the emperor jar. Soon, Chu Fengmian traversed a large area of the hidden ground. Along the way, Chu Fengmian saw many tombs that shone with treasure light. In this hidden ground, a large number of tombs were buried under the ground. Some tombs were hidden so deeply that it was difficult for others to detect them. They would only appear when they shone with treasure light. Although some tombs were hidden very deeply, they were still found by others, just like the golden-bodied Buddha's tomb. Such treasures would not shine with treasure light, so there were not many people fighting for them. Once the tombs that shone with treasure light opened, they could be seen clearly from dozens of miles away. There were countless experts in the grotto. Even the number of 9 tribulation ancient emperors was uncountable. Previously, before the Pure Land Buddhist Temple opened, the number of experts gathered outside the Pure Land Buddhist Temple had reached a terrifying level. Now, with the opening of the Pure Land Buddhist Temple, more experts came from the returning ruined sky, the 9 domains, and even from other star domains. There were more and more experts in this hidden ground. For the treasures in the tombs, battles broke out at any time and place, especially in the tombs that shone with treasure light. It attracted countless experts to fight for it. Chu Fengmian passed by these tombs along the way, but he did not pay attention to them. With his strength, as long as he did not encounter experts of the half-step celestial realm, he would be able to take them. Chu Fengmian was almost certain that he could take the treasures in these tombs. However, Chu Fengmian did not intend to waste time. The fragments of the Emperor's jar were more important than taking the treasures in 10 or even 100 tombs. Chu Fengmian ignored the treasures that opened right in front of him. He flew all the way and finally came to a valley. Just as Chu Fengmian approached the valley and was about to land, several purple figures suddenly entered the valley. Each of these purple figures contained an extremely strong power, more powerful than the ordinary 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. Almost every one of them was an expert at the level of Master Phoenix, Jianwang, and Han Yi. What made Chu Fengmian even more concerned was that these purple figures were not warriors, but demons who had concealed their demonic intent. Although Chu Fengmian looked no different from an ordinary martialist, he had dealt with the demon clan many times. He was extremely sensitive to the aura of demons. Now, Chu Fengmian could tell at a glance that these purple figures were demons. Chapter 1645. Among the Devil Clan, the bloodline determined the aptitude and strength. The Devil Clan with a powerful and noble bloodline was even strong enough to compete with the geniuses among the warriors. Young Master Huang, Little Yao Wang, Han Yi, these geniuses were almost strong enough to face the experts of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. They could fight 1 against 2 or 3. Their strength was far beyond the ordinary Emperor Gu of the 9 tribulations. And the strength of these Devil Clan experts in front of him was almost no less than young Master Huang and Han Yi. Even among the Devil Clan, their bloodline was most likely incomparably noble. They were the royal family of the Devil Clan, or even the royal family. Such figures were not common among the Devil Clan. It was the first time that Chu Fengmian saw so many experts of the Devil Clan gathered together. Chu Fengmian quietly hid his aura and watched the experts of the Devil Clan enter the valley. Then, their figures gradually disappeared. Seeing that the experts of the Devil Clan did not act strangely, they probably did not notice Chu Fengmian's existence. Chu Fengmian had obtained the 10,000 thoughts Buddhist beads. In addition to the increase of his strength, his spiritual consciousness could now extend to a radius of about 60 miles. The moment his spiritual consciousness detected the experts of the Devil Clan, Chu Fengmian restrained his aura. Seeing that the experts of the Devil Clan did not notice Chu Fengmian's existence, they were completely unaware that Chu Fengmian was spying on them. These Devil Clan also entered the valley. Could it be that the Devil Clan has already discovered the underground mausoleum? Then, it will be troublesome. Chu Fengmian watched the figures of the Devil Clan disappear into the valley. He could see that this valley was actually just a cover for its appearance. It hid its appearance with a kind of tyrannical technique. Once Chu Fengmian entered the valley, there would be another world. If Chu Fengmian rashly entered, he might fall into the lair of the Devil Clan. At that time, it would be dangerous. However, coming to the edge of the valley, in Chu Fengmian's mind, the guidance of the Emperor Jar became clear. The place that the Emperor Jar pointed to was inside the valley. The fragment of the Emperor Jar in the Pure Land Buddhist Temple was hidden in the valley. If Chu Fengmian wanted to get the fragment of the Emperor Jar, he had to go inside. However, even though Chu Fengmian's strength had increased a lot, he still didn't dare to rashly barge in. There were a total of 6 Demon Clan members who had just entered. Almost every one of them was as powerful as young Master Huang. Although Chu Fengmian had managed to fight 1 against 3 in the mausoleum of the Golden Buddha, fighting 1 against 6 was a completely different concept. Even if Chu Fengmian were to use his full strength, he might not be able to gain any advantage from the 6 devil tribe sovereigns. Moreover, Chu Fengmian didn't know how many demon experts were hiding in the valley. Even the number 1 genius of the demon race, the young emperor. Ever since he had entered the hidden ground, Chu Fengmian hadn't heard from him. However, Chu Fengmian knew that Xiao Di must be in the treasure trove. Whether it was the treasure or the emperor's jar, they were all very attractive to Xiao Di. Xiao Di must have been buried there. He must have been planning something. If Chu Fengmian had entered the valley, he would have been killed. And if Xiao Di happened to be in the valley, Chu Feng would be courting death if he went in. I have to think of a countermeasure. Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered as he thought of a countermeasure to enter the valley. A few more conveyance lights flew into the valley. They seemed to be a few martial artists. The leader of the group was a middle-aged man with blonde hair. He was at the center of the conveyance lights and had the most powerful aura. He was the leader of the group. However, Chu Fengmian could tell at a glance that this group of martial artists were also demon clan members in disguise. Chu Fengmian sensed a familiar power from the middle-aged man with blonde hair. It was a power that was very similar to his bloodline. Demon Dragon. This man is actually a demon dragon? Chu Fengmian glanced at him and his eyes were filled with shock. The power that Chu Fengmian sensed from the middle-aged man was none other than the bloodline power of the Dragon Clan. This bloodline power was very similar to Chu Fengmian's bloodline power. That was why Chu Fengmian felt a sense of familiarity. The Demon Clan was a unique race among the Demon Clan. It was said that in ancient times, an ancient dragon emperor fell into the demon Tao and eventually turned into a tyrannical demon dragon. The dragons under the command of the ancient dragon emperor had all fallen into the demonic path and gradually formed the demonic dragon clan. The demon dragon clan inherited the purest bloodline of the ancient war dragon. Therefore, every demon dragon was incomparably powerful. In terms of bloodline, the demon dragon clan's bloodline was much purer than that of the many dragon clans that still existed in the world today, such as the Jianwang clan and the divine dragon clan. Therefore, although the number of the demonic dragon clan was not many, every expert of the demonic dragon clan was an expert of the devil clan with a prominent position. Chu Fengmian had only heard about the demon dragon clan in ancient books. He did not expect that this time, Chu Fengmian would see such a demon dragon with his own eyes. I can kill such a demon dragon and disguise myself as this person to enter the valley. I can also hide in it and take the opportunity to find the Emperor Jar fragment. Chu Fengmian came up with a plan the moment he saw the middle-aged man with golden hair. Chu Fengmian originally wanted to find an opportunity to enter the valley. The arrival of the middle-aged man with golden hair gave Chu Fengmian such an opportunity. The aura of the demon clan was very unique. Even if Chu Fengmian had a unique secret technique to disguise himself as a demon, it would be difficult to fool the eyes of the experts of the demon clan. However, the demon dragon clan was different. Although the demon dragon clan had joined the demon Tao, they were still dragons in essence. The aura of the middle-aged man with golden hair in front of him was pure dragon might. It just contained a little bit of demon will. Chu Fengmian was born with the dragon clan's bloodline. He was born with dragon might. It was not impossible for Chu Fengmian to imitate this little bit of demon will. Just do it. Chu Fengmian thought for a moment and no longer hesitated. He was not the kind of person who would hesitate over and over again. Chapter 1646. Chu Fengmian concealed himself and approached the golden-haired middle-aged man. There were 17 or 18 people in the golden-haired middle-aged man's group. Apart from him, the rest were Asuras, Yikshas, and other demons. Most of them were around the level of 8 Tribulations Emperor Gu, so Chu Fengmian did not take them seriously. However, the golden-haired middle-aged man's strength was extraordinary. He was at the peak of 9 tribulations Emperor Gu's realm and was much stronger than Master Phoenix and the others. He was the most powerful 9 tribulation ancient emperor that Chu Fengmian had ever seen. The demonic dragon clan possessed the purest bloodline of the war dragon among the dragon clan. Together with the demonic will, their bloodline was incomparably noble, and they were invincible in the same realm. In addition, the golden-haired middle-aged man's realm was already at the peak of 9 tribulations Emperor Gu's realm. He had the potential to break through to the half-step celestial realm. Chu Fengmian had to be careful when dealing with such a demonic dragon. Chu Fengmian concealed his aura and quietly approached the group. The moment he approached the group of demons, he happened to hear their discussion. "Master, why did the young emperor summon you in such a hurry this time?" Standing beside the golden-haired middle-aged man, an Azura of 8 tribulations Emperor Gu's realm asked in a low voice. An Azura of 8 tribulations Emperor Gu was almost an emperor among the Azuras. He had an extremely high status in the demon clan. However, in front of the golden-haired middle-aged man, this Azura emperor lowered his status to an extremely low level. Every word he said was laced with a hint of flattery. "In my opinion, Master's future achievements will not be inferior to the young emperor. Master has obtained a lot of opportunities in this treasure trove. Once you step into the half-step celestial realm in the future, even the young emperor will not be your match. Master, you don't have to care so much about the young emperor's orders." Another Yaksha emperor of 8 tribulations Emperor Gu's realm also spoke. It's fine if you say that in front of me, but be careful not to let the young emperor hear you. If that happens, I won't be able to protect you." Hearing the flattery of the surrounding demons, the golden-haired middle-aged man pretended to be angry, but his eyes were filled with joy. The few devils beside the middle-aged man were well aware of this, so they hurriedly flattered the middle-aged man. After a while, the golden-haired middle-aged man waved his hand and interrupted the flattery of the people around him. "This time, the young emperor didn't just summon me. He summoned almost all the experts of the demon race in the hidden land. It seems that the young emperor has discovered something. Otherwise, he wouldn't have acted so rashly." The blonde middle-aged man said. "What did you find?" There were treasures everywhere in this treasure trove. With the young emperor's strength, why would he need to make such a big fuss? What kind of treasure can stop him? The Azura sovereign asked curiously. The young emperor could be said to be the most powerful expert of the demon race. He was a terrifying expert at the peak of the half-step celestial realm. Even if they had flattered the golden-haired middle-aged man, they still had to admit the young emperor's strength. With the young emperor's strength, there should be no treasure that could stop him. "It seems that you don't know yet. Let me tell you, so that you won't act rashly later." The golden-haired middle-aged man scanned the surroundings, as if he was looking for someone who was spying on them. After a while, he lowered his voice and said, "Do you know Demon Emperor Shuexia?" Demon Emperor Shuexia? There was once a supreme demon emperor in the demon race. It was said that he was an expert comparable to the 10 Sky Demon Lord. Several devils spoke one after another. As members of the demon race, they naturally knew of Demon Emperor Shuexia. He was once the most dazzling and terrifying demon emperor in the demon race. Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum is in this treasure trove. The young emperor brought us here for Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum. The golden-haired middle-aged man said slowly. Demon Emperor Shuexia of the demon race was the Buddha of the Pure Land. The Buddha of the Pure Land raised demons all his life, but in the end, he was corrupted by demons and became Demon Emperor Shuexia. Later on, Demon Emperor Shuexia attacked the Buddha temple of the Pure Land and died in the temple. The golden-haired middle-aged man said slowly. This is a secret of the demon race. Don't tell anyone about it. This is the place where we are going to the Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum? Several devils were shocked when they heard the golden-haired middle-aged man's words. Greed flashed in their eyes. Demon Emperor Shuexia was a famous expert in the demon race. There were countless treasures in his treasure trove, all of which were priceless treasures to them. Whoever could get a part of the treasures would be able to soar to the sky. After you enter, be smart. If you encounter any treasures, take them and give them to me. I won't neglect you. The golden-haired middle-aged man glanced at the other devils and said with a hint of viciousness in his eyes. However, if I am to find out that you all dared to betray me and embezzle the treasures, do not blame this emperor for being impolite. Master, don't worry. We will give the treasures to you. When the other devils saw the viciousness in the golden-haired middle-aged man's eyes, they hurriedly promised. Everyone gathered together and continued to fly toward the valley. Demon Emperor Shuexia was the Buddha of the Pure Land? The mausoleum of the Buddha of the Pure Land was the mausoleum of Demon Emperor Shuexia? Chu Fengmian was shocked when he heard the golden-haired middle-aged man's words. Demon Emperor Shuexia was a famous demon emperor in the history of the demon race. Chu Fengmian had heard about him in the ancient books. He was known as the strongest and the most ferocious demon emperor in the demon race. Back when the demon emperor Blood Demon had dominated the 9 regions, many top powers had died at his hands. Who would have thought that Demon Emperor Shuexia and the Pure Land Buddha of the Pure Land sect were the same person? If this news were to spread, it would cause a great uproar. There was no record of this in the ancient books. It seemed that only the records of the demon race had records about Demon Emperor Shuexia. It seems that we were right not to enter rashly. The young emperor is indeed hiding in the valley. Chu Fengmian heaved a sigh of relief. Chapter 1647. Whoever could get a part of the treasures would be able to soar to the top. Once you're in, you'd better be smart. If you encounter any treasures, take them and give them to me. I won't neglect you. The golden-haired middle-aged man glanced at the other demons and said with a hint of viciousness in his eyes. But if I find out that you've betrayed me and embezzled the treasures, don't blame me for being rude. Master, don't worry. We'll give you the treasures we encounter. The other demons hurriedly promised when they saw the golden-haired middle-aged man's viciousness. The group continued to fly toward the valley. Demon Emperor Shuexia was the Buddha of the Pure Land? The mausoleum of the Buddha of the Pure Land was Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum? Chu Fengmian was shocked when he heard the golden-haired middle-aged man's words. Demon Emperor Shuexia was a famous demon emperor in the history of the demon race. Chu Fengmian had heard of him in ancient books. He was said to be the strongest and most ferocious demon emperor in the demon race. Back when the demon emperor Blood Demon had dominated the 9 regions, many top powers had died at his hands. Chu Fengmian did not expect Demon Emperor Shuexia to be the Buddha of the Pure Land sect. If this news were to spread, it would cause a great uproar. There was no record of this in ancient books. It seemed that only the records of the demon race had records of Demon Emperor Shuexia. It seems that I was right not to enter rashly. The young emperor is indeed hiding in the valley. Chu Fengmian heaved a sigh of relief. If he had rashly entered the valley, he would have died at the hands of the young emperor. 1 inch it seems that I have to sneak in. The Emperor Jar fragment must be hidden in Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum. Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum was in the valley. Obviously, the Emperor Jar fragment was hidden in Demon Emperor Shuexia's hands. If Xiao Di got his hands on the Emperor Jar fragment, it would be almost impossible for Chu Fengmian to get his hands on it. The young emperor already knew that Chu Fengmian had the Emperor Jar. If he got the fragment, he would guard it carefully and never give Chu Fengmian a chance to get it. By then, it would be even more difficult to obtain this fragment of the Emperor's Jar. Snatching something from a half-step celestial realm expert, or even a peak celestial realm expert, was no different from courting death. However, Chu Fengmian did hear an opportunity from the golden-haired middle-aged man's words. The tomb of the Demon Emperor Shuexia was difficult to open. The Golden Buddha's mausoleum to Demon Emperor Shuexia's mausoleum. The power of Demon Emperor Shuexia was 1,000 times more terrifying than that of golden-bodied Buddha. Even the young emperor couldn't break through it in a short period of time. That was why he had gathered so many experts of the demon race. This also gave Chu Fengmian an opportunity to blend in with them. Let's get rid of that demonic dragon first. there was no better opportunity than to disguise himself as a demonic dragon. Given Chu Fengmian's bloodline, it would be difficult for the young emperor to see through his disguise. Chu Fengmian quietly flew to a place more than 10 miles away from the golden-haired middle-aged man and exposed his hidden aura. Chu Fengmian even activated the power of the battle dragon bloodline in his body. The dragon's might could be felt clearly within a 10-mile radius. The golden-haired middle-aged man and his group were still flying towards the valley when suddenly, the golden-haired middle-aged man came to a stop and scanned the area. He happened to see a beam of light flying not far away from him. The beam of light contained pure dragon's might. It was Chu Fengmian's beam of light. What a pure dragon's might! This person's bloodline is actually that of the ancient battle dragon. Although the golden-haired middle-aged man was a demonic dragon, he was still a member of the dragon clan and was very sensitive to the dragon's bloodline. The moment he sensed the dragon's might emerging from Chu Fengmian's body, he recognized the power of Chu Fengmian's bloodline. His escape light couldn't help but stop. He looked at Chu Fengmian with eyes full of greed. I didn't expect to meet such a pure-blooded dragon. It seems that my luck is not bad. This person's bloodline seems to contain some of progenitor Jianwang's bloodline. If I devour this person's bloodline, it will be much easier for me to reach the half-step celestial realm in the future. The golden-haired middle-aged man murmured to himself. The bloodline of progenitor Jianwang. It was a great attraction to any member of the dragon clan. The demonic dragons were strong because of their bloodline. Being able to enhance their bloodline was enough to increase their strength countless times. The golden-haired middle-aged man observed Chu Fengmian's cultivation and found that he was only at the level of 8 Tribulations Emperor Gu. In his eyes, Chu Fengmian was just like an ant. Moreover, there was no one beside Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian was the only one. In the eyes of the golden-haired middle-aged man, Chu Fengmian was simply a walking piece of fat meat. Bring that brat to me. The golden-haired middle-aged man glanced at an Azura emperor beside him and immediately ordered. Yes. Upon hearing the golden-haired middle-aged man's order, the Azura emperor turned into a ray of light and flew towards Chu Fengmian without any hesitation. On the other side, Chu Fengmian pretended that he didn't notice the golden-haired middle-aged man, but his spiritual consciousness was constantly paying attention. Seeing the Azura emperor's ray of light flying towards him, Chu Fengmian couldn't help but sneer in his heart. However, Chu Fengmian's expression was still calm. He pretended that he had just noticed the Azura emperor's presence and hurriedly sped up the ray of light, looking extremely flustered. He turned into a ray of light and flew directly towards the distance. Upon hearing the golden-haired middle-aged man's words, several members of the demon clan were shocked. In their shocked eyes, incomparable greed flashed across their eyes. Demon Emperor Shuexia was a well-known expert in the demon clan. There were countless treasures left in his hideout, which were all priceless treasures for them. Chapter 1648. The Demon Clan? You are from the Demon Clan? Chu Fengmian was terrified when he heard Long Maluo's words. He roared in horror as he tried to escape. Trying to escape? Long Maluo's lips curled into a disdainful smile. With a wave of his hand, Chu Fengmian's surroundings began to spin. Billowing demonic will surged and brought Chu Fengmian to the depths of the void in an instant. Layers of seals had been set up in the depths of the void. Even the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu would not be able to escape. Kid, listen to me if you don't want to die. Otherwise, I don't mind giving you to my subordinates to eat. Long Maluo stared at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. Chu Fengmian seemed to be frightened by the murderous words and did not dare to struggle. Long Maluo's eyes revealed a smug smile. Brat, since we're both dragons, I won't make things difficult for you. Today, if you obediently give up resisting and let me devour your bloodline power, I won't kill you. Instead, I'll give you some compensation. Devour my bloodline power? When Chu Fengmian heard Long Maluo's words, it was within his expectations. However, on the surface, he put on a look of extreme fear and reluctance. What? You don't want to? Long Maluo's expression turned cold when he saw Chu Fengmian's expression. Today, I will give you two choices. First, you give up resisting and give me your bloodline power. Then, I will not kill you and will give you some compensation. Secondly, you resisted and were killed by yours truly. The power of your bloodline belongs to yours truly after all. Since we are both from the Dragon Clan, I will give you one more chance. Choose for yourself. Long Maluo looked at Chu Fengmian as if he was looking at a pitiful ant. No matter how he resisted, he could not escape from his grasp. Long Maluo enjoyed the feeling of being high and mighty. That was why he deliberately gave Chu Fengmian a choice instead of killing him outright. Kid, you don't have much time left. Long Maluo sneered when he saw that Chu Fengmian had not said anything. If you don't choose now, you won't have another chance. Choose the first one. Choose the second one. Really? Unfortunately, I want to choose the third option. Suddenly, the aura on Chu Fengmian's body skyrocketed, bursting out with an astonishing aura. The surrounding demonic will was shattered in the face of Chu Fengmian's aura. That is to kill all of you. Chu Fengmian's tone was extremely cold. She was no longer trembling in fear like before. Long Maluo didn't seem to have expected Chu Fengmian to undergo such a drastic change all of a sudden. Moreover, Chu Fengmian's strength was still hidden. However, even though Chu Fengmian's aura had soared, Long Maluo could tell that Chu Fengmian's cultivation level was indeed that of an 8th Tribulation Ancient Emperor. Long Maluo's eyes were filled with disdain. A mere 8th Tribulation Emperor Gu wants to rebel against me? Send a few men to kill him. Yes. Upon hearing Long Maluo's order, the demons beside him moved one after another. First was the Azura Sovereign. His body expanded dozens of times, transforming from the appearance of an ordinary martial artist into a true Azura Sovereign. The bone sword in his hand also expanded dozens of times, bursting with true power. Die! The Azura Sovereign attacked Chu Fengmian with the bone sword in his hand. You're just an ant. Chu Fengmian sneered. Facing the incoming attack of the bone sword, Chu Fengmian merely raised his finger and pointed it forward. Chu Fengmian's finger pierced a bloody hole in the Azura Sovereign's chest. Then, there was a loud boom. The Azura Sovereign's body exploded in the air, instantly killed by Chu Fengmian's finger. All of you must die. Chu Fengmian's gaze swept across the demons present. With a long roar, the battle dragon claw formed above his head and swept down. There was a loud boom. In front of the battle dragon claw, these level 8 ancient emperors couldn't even resist. One by one, their bodies exploded and died under the claws of Chu Feng's battle dragon claw. In the blink of an eye, all the demons present, with the exception of Long Maluo, were killed by Chu Fengmian. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen 8th Tribulation Ancient Emperors of the Devil Clan had fallen. Not a single one of them had escaped. You! Demon Dragon True Body. Raging Dragon Strike. Long Maluo didn't expect Chu Fengmian to kill all the surrounding demons with a single move. Chu Fengmian's attack was so fast that those devils had already been killed by Chu Fengmian when he was about to intervene. They couldn't be any more dead. These demons were all experts under his command. They were the commanders of the demon army, but they were all killed by Chu Fengmian. This man is really powerful. However, the bloodline in his body isn't just the battle dragon bloodline. This is the aura of an emperor. He actually possesses a part of the Dragon Emperor bloodline. This bloodline was extremely rare in the ancient times, but it still exists now. Long Maluo stared at Chu Fengmian, the greed in his eyes growing stronger. Chu Fengmian's bloodline was powerful and noble. For him, killing Chu Fengmian would bring him even more benefits. In an instant, Long Maluo gathered his strength and attacked. The peak strength of the 9 Tribulation Emperor Gu immediately erupted. Rolling demonic will gathered in his palm, and he suddenly blasted a palm strike at Chu Fengmian. The moment the palm strike was launched, it turned into a huge black dragon claw in the air and swept toward Chu Fengmian. The dragon claw strike contained the demonic will and dragon will. these two forces were enough to be used by the Demon Dragon clan. The power that erupted from this Dragon Claw attack was incomparably similar to the Battle Dragon Claw. However, compared to the Battle Dragon Claw, it was a little more bizarre. When it struck out in the air, it was ever-changing and impossible to guard against. Dragon Clan Martial Technique? The fallen Demon Dragon Clan doesn't deserve to be called a Demon Clan. Today, I will show you the orthodox Dragon Clan. Chu Fengmian didn't panic when he saw the claw coming toward him. Instead, he gathered his dragon force and displayed the second move of the primogenitor in his palm. The Dragon Clan martial technique was derived from the 9 moves of the primogenitor. The second move that Chu Fengmian displayed was the most orthodox Dragon Clan martial technique. The 2 dragon claws collided in the air. Chu Fengmian's dragon claw contained the power of the second move of the primogenitor. It was invincible and broke Long Maluo's dragon claw. Chapter 1649. What martial technique is this? Origin. This is the origin of the Dragon Clan. The orthodox martial technique of the Dragon Clan. Isn't this a martial technique that only our ancestors can master? Who the hell are you? Long Maluo glared at Chu Fengmian and roared loudly. He was a demonic dragon at the peak of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. When he saw Chu Fengmian perform the second move of the ancestor, he immediately understood the mystery behind it. He immediately sensed the profoundness of this move. This move was almost representative of the Dragon Clan's orthodoxy. It was the most ancient and mysterious martial technique of the Dragon Clan. In many ancient legends, even the Dragon Emperor, who had stepped into the celestial realm, might not be able to master this martial technique. Now, it had appeared in the hands of an unknown person. Long Maluo attacked repeatedly and performed countless killing moves, intending to block Chu Fengmian's attack. However, as Chu Fengmian's figure flashed and took a step forward, the Dragon Emperor's shadow behind him roared loudly. Long Maluo's countless killing moves were shattered one after another. Chu Fengmian rushed towards Long Maluo. Oh no, this person is really difficult to deal with. Long Maluo kept retreating, knowing that he had hit an iron plate this time. He originally wanted to deal with Chu Fengmian and seize his bloodline power to increase his strength. Therefore, he used a supreme technique to drag him and Chu Fengmian into the depths of the void. Once one was trapped in the depths of the void, it would be extremely difficult for one to get out. This move was originally used to deal with Chu Fengmian, so that Chu Fengmian wouldn't have a chance to escape. Now, he had shot himself in the foot. In the depths of the void, it wouldn't be easy for him to leave even if he wanted to. Moreover, Chu Fengmian was still chasing him from behind, so there was no way he would let him go. Demonic Dragon True Form. Long Maluo roared loudly, and the power of the Dragon Clan bloodline on his body burst out completely. His body also changed in the void, turning into a pitch-black demonic dragon that was hundreds of feet long. 2 dragon claws immediately attacked Chu Fengmian. There's no need to struggle. You're just a little demonic dragon. Unless you've stepped into the half-step celestial realm, your struggles are meaningless in front of my bloodline. Chu Fengmian sneered at the sight of Long Maluo's true form. The power of the Dragon Emperor's bloodline surged out from Chu Fengmian's body, turning into rolling dragon wool that enveloped the Dragon Mara. The Dragon Mara's bloodline was at most the primordial battle dragon bloodline. Chu Fengmian's current bloodline, however, contained some of the primordial Dragon Emperor's bloodline. The hierarchy of bloodlines was engraved on the bodies of every dragon. In the face of a more noble bloodline, he would be suppressed. If it was to deal with other noble bloodlines, such as the royal bloodline of the devil race, or even the legendary royal bloodline of the devil race, the strength of those devil race powerhouses was almost not inferior to the strength of the devil dragon. Chu Fengmian would be even more difficult to deal with. However, Long Maluo was a demonic dragon. The power of the dragon race was imprinted in his bloodline and could not be erased. The power of Long Maluo's body was reduced by a full 30% under the might of the bloodline. It was already extremely difficult for him to fend off Chu Fengmian's attacks. Now, it was one disaster after another. The continuous attacks bombarded Long Maluo's body, shattering many of his scales with each blow. Damn it! Damn it! How can this person's bloodline be so powerful? Long Maluo roared madly. His strength had been firmly suppressed by Chu Fengmian, so he could only hastily deal with Chu Fengmian's attacks. He couldn't even counterattack. He could see that although Chu Fengmian's strength was far superior to that of the Eight Tribulations Emperor Gu, he was at most on par with him. If they were to compete in strength, his strength might be above Chu Fengmian's. But now, because his strength was limited by the suppression of his bloodline power, he could only passively take a beating in front of Chu Fengmian. Under the continuous bombardment, Long Maluo's body was on the verge of shattering. Old man, on account of the fact that we are both dragons, I'll give you a chance. If you submit to me, I won't kill you. I'll even give you an opportunity in the future to step into the half-step celestial realm. Chu Fengmian stared at Long Maluo and said coldly. Long Maluo was the strongest Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu that Chu Fengmian had ever seen. Although Chu Fengmian didn't know how long it would take for Long Maluo to reach the half-step celestial realm, with such strength, even if 5 or 6 ordinary Nine Emperor Gu besieged him, they would still be killed by him. If Chu Fengmian didn't have the suppression of his bloodline power, he would only have a 50% chance of defeating Long Maluo. Once he subdued Long Maluo, Chu Fengmian's goal would be achieved. He could also leave a trump card for Sword Dao Sect to guard. Unless there was a half-step celestial realm expert attacking Sword Dao Sect would be safe no matter how great the danger. What a joke! You, a mere 8 Tribulations Emperor Gu, want to subdue me? Even a young emperor can't subdue me. What are you? If it weren't for the suppression of your bloodline power, I wouldn't be afraid of you. Long Maluo roared madly when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. His eyes were filled with insanity. Even if I fall into your hands today, you won't be able to take advantage of me. Doomsday Rising Dragon. Rumble. A golden dragon shadow suddenly flew out from behind Long Maluo's back and soared into the sky. Following the appearance of the golden dragon silhouette, Long Maluo's power reached its peak. He gathered all his strength on the golden dragon shadow, which contained the power of destruction. He was going all out. Doomsday Rising Dragon. Chu Fengmian's eyes were filled with fear when he saw the golden dragon shadow. He had the bloodline of the dragon clan, so he naturally knew that this was the ultimate move of the dragon clan. Once it was released, death was the only outcome. It was a move that would rather die in glory than live in dishonor. It was the final move of the dragon clan. Chu Fengmian had once seen a flood dragon use this move when he was still weak. The power of this move was terrifying to the extreme. Long Maluo before him was a pure-blooded war dragon. The Doomsday Rising Dragon that he used was extremely powerful. Even the surrounding space was trembling. Long Maluo was now forced into a corner by Chu Fengmian. He would rather die than submit to Chu Fengmian. This was the glory of the Dragon Clan bloodline. It's a pity that I can't subdue this person. Chu Fengmian muttered to himself when he saw the Doomsday Rising Dragon unleash this move. This move meant that Long Maluo had decided to perish together with Chu Fengmian. Chapter 1650. The power of Doomsday Rising Dragon gathered on the golden dragon shadow and roared. It contained the power of destruction as it swept towards Chu Fengmian. Long Maluo was an invincible figure at the pinnacle of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. At this moment, he had gathered all his strength and unleashed the power of Doomsday Rising Dragon, which had already surpassed the Emperor realm. In terms of power, it was almost comparable to the 5 elements Saber Saint Saber Light. Even if this Emperor dies, I will fight to the death. The remnant dragon soul of Long Maluo roared crazily. Fight to the death? You don't have that ability. Chu Fengmian snorted coldly. A spirit sword quietly condensed in Chu Fengmian's palm. Immediately, a beam of sword light slashed down. As the sword was unleashed, the power of stars shrouded down. the power of stars all over the sky condensed on the blade of the sword. When the sword light was unleashed, the power gathered into a river of stars and collided with the doomsday rising dragon. Rumble! In the river of stars, countless sword chi bombarded the golden dragon shadow. Even the power of the doomsday rising dragon couldn't break through the layers of sword chi in the galaxy. Countless sword chi in the galaxy were obliterated by the sword chi. The power of doomsday rising dragon was constantly being worn down. Long Amoluo's dragon soul was also getting weaker. Die! Chu Fengmian suddenly opened his eyes. The spirit sword in his hand slashed down again. It turned into a beam of sword chi that shot into the river of stars. In the river of stars, this beam of sword chi was aimed at the golden dragon shadow. With a loud rumble, it slashed onto the golden dragon's silhouette and forcibly severed it. No! Long Amoluo let out a final roar. Along with the golden dragon shadow, his dragon soul was also destroyed by the sword light. Such a demonic dragon at the pinnacle of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu died under Chu Fengmian's sword light. In the sky, only the pitch-black body of the demonic dragon was left. After losing the dragon soul, the body had already lost its breath. It fell into the depths of the void and was about to be swept away by the void. However, Chu Fengmian had expended a great deal of effort to kill Long Mola to obtain this demonic dragon's body. How could he possibly allow it to be taken away by the void? Get over here! Chu Fengmian extended his hand and suddenly clawed at the void. The demonic dragon's body was caught in Chu Fengmian's hand and forcibly pulled out from the void. At the same time, Chu Fengmian activated the secret technique of devouring heaven. It transformed into a vortex and condensed in front of Chu Fengmian. With a wave of his right hand, Chu Fengmian tossed the body of the demon dragon into the heaven-devouring secret technique, where it was refined. Although Long Maluo was dead, the power of his bloodline was left behind. As a descendant of the primordial battle dragon, Long Maluo's bloodline was extremely powerful. His bloodline had already reached the peak of the battle dragon bloodline. If he were to take another step forward, he would be able to achieve the half-heaven realm. His bloodline would transform into the Dragon Emperor bloodline. At that time, even if Chu Fengmian were to fight with Long Maluo, he would not be able to gain the upper hand in terms of bloodline. Unfortunately, Long Maluo was still one step away. Chu Fengmian had seized the opportunity to suppress Long Maluo with his bloodline and kill him. His powerful bloodline power had now become Chu Fengmian's possession. What pure spiritual power! The spiritual power of Long Maluo's bloodline power is 10 times stronger than that of young Master Huang's bloodline power. This is the true power of a bloodline. As soon as Chu Fengmian activated the secret technique of devouring heaven, he could clearly feel the strength of the spiritual power in Long Maluo's bloodline. Among the countless experts that Chu Fengmian had killed and devoured, young Master Huang's bloodline power was the most powerful and had also brought him the most benefits. However, compared to Long Maluo's bloodline power, young Master Huang's bloodline power was on a completely different level. The Phoenix bloodline and the ancient battle dragon bloodline were originally on the same level, but young Master Huang's Phoenix bloodline was not pure. On the other hand, Long Maluo's battle dragon bloodline was even more powerful than an ordinary battle dragon bloodline. It had already reached the peak of the battle dragon bloodline and was about to transform. The difference between the bloodline powers of the two was like heaven and earth. A huge amount of pure spiritual power poured into Chu Fengmian's body. The countless battle dragon blood essences in Chu Fengmian's bloodline were now extremely excited. They planned to devour the spiritual power and start advancing. However, Chu Fengmian still suppressed the churning of the bloodline power in his body. Instead, he waved his hand and Long Maluo's bloodline power began to condense in Chu Fengmian's palm. Long Maluo's spiritual power continued to condense in Chu Fengmian's palm and turned into a red blood crystal. Now that he had devoured Long Maluo's bloodline power, Chu Fengmian did indeed have the opportunity to break through and step into the realm of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. However, Chu Fengmian's realm was currently unstable. A rash breakthrough could affect his foundation. Although Chu Fengmian was currently in the depths of the void, he was extremely close to the valley. Every time Chu Fengmian cultivated, there would be a huge commotion. Once he broke through to the next realm, the impact of the explosion could be noticed from hundreds of miles away. In this hidden place, Chu Fengmian would be in great danger if he attracted the attention of some powerhouses. Therefore, even if there was an excellent opportunity to step into the realm of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu, Chu Fengmian forcibly held back. He would first condense Long Maluo's spiritual power and wait for a good opportunity to devour it and break through to the realm of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. In a few minutes, the demonic dragon's figure within the sky-devouring secret technique grew smaller and smaller. In the end, all of its bloodline power was devoured and refined by Chu Fengmian. It turned into a blood crystal the size of a fist in Chu Fengmian's palm. The blood crystal contained Long Maluo's spiritual power. Anyone who saw it couldn't help but feel afraid. Chu Fengmian glanced at it and put it into the depths of his spatial ring. After killing Long Maluo, I'll disguise myself as him and go into the valley. Chu Fengmian closed his eyes and seemed to be thinking about something. Suddenly, Chu Fengmian opened his eyes again. A surge of spiritual power enveloped his body. Then, Chu Fengmian's figure flickered repeatedly and suddenly transformed into a pitch-black demonic dragon. This pitch-black demonic dragon looked exactly like Long Maluo. Every movement, every detail, and the aura on his body were exactly the same as Long Maluo's. Chu Fengmian observed the changing aura on his body. The dragon might on his body was almost exactly the same as Long Maluo's. In fact, he could vaguely feel that the dragon was even more tyrannical. In terms of bloodline, Chu Fengmian's was even nobler than Long Maluo's. Chapter 1651. Chu Fengmian had transformed into Long Maluo, and the dragon aura emanating from him was almost identical to the real Long Maluo. However, Long Maluo was a demonic dragon, but he was not a pure dragon. There was another power within him, and that was demonic intent. The demonic will on him, Chu Fengmian's eyes flashed as he pondered. With his current means and the demonic will he condensed, it wouldn't be a problem to deceive the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. But this time, it was highly likely that the young emperor was hiding in the valley. Given the young emperor's ability, he would be able to see through Chu Fengmian's identity in an instant. If Chu Fengmian entered the valley, it would be tantamount to suicide. Demonic will, demonic will. That's right, the king of inner demons. Chu Fengmian's mind flashed with one idea after another, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Nothing could be more realistic than the devil will of a real devil clan member. His mind stirred. The king of inner demons appeared behind Chu Fengmian. The king of inner demons had devoured many demons before, and his strength had risen to the level of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. Although he was still far from Long Maluo's level, Chu Fengmian's means were enough to make up for it. Possess. Chu Fengmian commanded the king of inner demons, and the latter attached himself to Chu Fengmian's body. Chu Fengmian had purposely released the demonic will on him. At a glance, the current Chu Fengmian looked like a true demon. The king of inner demons had long been subdued by Chu Fengmian, and now that he had attached himself to Chu Fengmian, it was difficult for outsiders to detect him. Coupled with the faintly discernible dragon aura emanating from Chu Fengmian's bloodline, Chu Fengmian had transformed into Long Maluo. Whether in appearance, aura, or strength, he was no different from the real Long Maluo. Although it couldn't be said to be flawless, Chu Fengmian was confident that he could deceive the young emperor. After all, Long Maluo was a super demon, and the young emperor wouldn't be too suspicious of his identity. The young emperor almost killed me last time. It's time for me to give him a big present. Chu Fengmian's eyes were extremely cold. He had almost been killed by Xiao Di before, and Chu Fengmian would never forget that grudge. This time, if the valley was really the mausoleum of Demon Emperor Shuexia, there must be a lot of treasures in it. Other than the fragment of the Emperor's jar, which Chu Fengmian had to obtain, taking a few of the other items would be a blow to Xiao Di. Although Chu Fengmian was not strong enough to fight Xiao Di head-on, he would not let Xiao Di have an easy time. Let's go. Chu Fengmian did not waste any more time. His figure flickered as he flew out of the void. At the same time, he transformed into Long Maluo's human form. He urged the light to fly in the direction of the valley. Xiao Di must have used some mysterious method to conceal the valley. This method was so profound that even Chu Fengmian couldn't tell that there was actually another world within the valley even though he was already close to it. It was extremely difficult for Chu Fengmian to comprehend the method of a half-step celestial realm expert. However, Chu Fengmian had already seen the group of demons entering the valley. Naturally, he was prepared for it. He stopped at a place near the entrance of the valley. Chu Fengmian slowed down, descended from the sky, and stepped into the valley. As soon as he stepped into the valley, Chu Fengmian felt the world spinning around him. Behind the valley was a mountain range. At the highest point of the mountain range was a glittering Buddhist temple that appeared before Chu Fengmian's eyes. The Pure Land Buddhist temple at the peak of the mountains. Chu Fengmian immediately understood the origin of this glittering Buddhist temple. At the same time, in addition to the Pure Land Buddhist temple, there was a strong demonic will in the mountains. This demonic will was much stronger than the demonic will in the Nether Ghost realm. It was simply a demonic realm. This Pure Land Buddhist temple actually existed in a demonic realm. These two completely different forces coexisted in harmony without any conflict. This scene was simply beyond common sense. However, Chu Fengmian knew that this was because the Pure Land Buddhist ancestor was the demon emperor blood demon. That was why he could control the power of the Buddha and the demon and create such a strange world. The young emperor is not here? Chu Fengmian stepped into a strange demonic realm. He also spread out his spiritual consciousness to detect the experts around him. Many experts from the demon clan were hiding in the demon will. Many of them were cultivating, and a few of them were even as strong as Long Maluo. Almost every one of them was at the peak of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. However, Chu Fengmian did not sense the existence of any half-step celestial realm expert. It seemed that the young emperor was not in this demonic realm. This made Chu Fengmian breathe a sigh of relief. Without the young emperor, these demon experts at the peak of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu could not do anything to Chu Fengmian. It would be much more convenient for Chu Fengmian to do things. Long Maluo, why are you dawdling? Why are you so slow? You haven't even stepped into the half-step celestial realm. How dare you disobey the young emperor's orders? Suddenly, a purple figure appeared in the demonic will. It was a middle-aged man. This middle-aged man exuded a purple miasma. Chu Fengmian could see that the miasma exuding from this middle-aged man was a type of deadly poison. Even an ordinary Emperor Gu would be in danger of dying if he breathed in even a little of it. You don't have to be so sarcastic with me, King Manticore. If you don't like it, come fight me. Let's see who will live and who will die. Chu Fengmian snorted in the guise of Long Maluo. Chu Fengmian's tone was basically the same as Long Maluo's arrogance. At the same time, Chu Fengmian was also observing the middle-aged man in front of him. This middle-aged man was not a martial artist, but a unique beast of the demon race. He was the king of the manticores, the King Manticore. The purple miasma on his body was the unique poison of the manticore. The King Manticore was also one of the peak experts of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu in this strange demonic realm. His strength was close to Long Maluo's, but he was one of the latter's enemies. The Demon Dragon clan enjoyed a superior status among the demon race. The Manticore clan did not receive the same treatment as the demon race. However, as the demonic dragon clan gradually weakened, the Manticore clan raised their heads in dissatisfaction with the demonic dragon clan. The moment the Manticore king saw Chu Fengmian disguised as Long Maluo, it immediately began to ridicule him. Chapter 1652. The demon race was also rife with conflict. They were not united. However, the demon race had always valued strength above all else. It was purer than the relationship between cultivators. The King Manticore dared to mock Chu Fengmian because he was not as strong as Long Maluo, but he was not far behind. If he was a weakling, Chu Fengmian would not even need to speak. He would have killed him with a slap. "Shut up if you don't want to die, King Manticore. I don't think the temple is open yet. Why don't you come out and fight me?" Chu Fengmian stared at the King Manticore and said bluntly. Among the demon race, Long Maluo was only polite to the young emperor. As for the others, he never gave them any face. Chu Fengmian had obtained all of Long Maluo's memories after killing him. The way he spoke was as intimidating as the real Long Maluo. The King Manticore's face turned cold when he heard Chu Fengmian's words. His eyes were vicious, but he did not dare to speak. After all, he was not as strong as Long Maluo. If they fought, he would be the one at a disadvantage. While the situation was in a deadlock, another figure walked out of the demonic will. This time, it was a woman who walked out. "You two, stop arguing here. If you have the strength to argue, why don't you save it and wait for the temple to open so you can deal with those things inside?" The woman looked like an ordinary cultivator, but there was a layer of complicated patterns on her arm. These patterns were not imprinted on her arm. They were part of her body and belonged to her in the first place. Demonic patterns. This is the royal family of the demon race. Chu Fengmian understood when he saw the patterns. At the same time, he hurriedly searched for Long Maluo's memories in his mind. Soon, he understood the woman's identity. Nightmare Princess, Meng Yanluo. There used to be 10 royal families in the demon race. They were the descendants of the ancestors of the demon race, the 10 heavenly demons. However, the ancient demon race had withered away. Only 3 of the 10 royal families were left. This woman was one of the 10 heavenly demons, the descendant of the Nightmare Heavenly Demon. She was the current princess of the Nightmare clan, Meng Yanluo. Meng Yanluo had inherited the bloodline of the 10 heavenly demons. Although it wasn't pure, the power of her bloodline was even more frightening than Long Imo Luo. Even though Meng Yanluo had yet to make a move, Chu Fengmian could sense that this woman possessed an unfathomable power. In the past, Long Maluo might have been arrogant, but he would not have dared to make Meng Yanluo his enemy. Nightmare Princess. Chu Fengmian nodded when he saw Meng Yanluo's arrival. He also restrained his aura a little. This could be considered as giving her some face. Seeing that Chu Fengmian had retracted his aura, Meng Yanluo looked at the King Manticore and said, "King Manticore, Long Imo Luo must have been delayed by some matters." Unlike the outside world, it's not a big deal to be a little late in coming here. Meng Yanluo's arrival was obviously to stop the battle between Chu Fengmian and the King Manticore. "Your Highness is right. I was too reckless." The King Manticore took advantage of the situation and said, "All right. This time, the opening of the Buddhist temple is of great importance. Let's go there first. I'll explain it to you on the way." Meng Yanluo said as she turned into a ray of light and flew towards the peak of the mountain. The King Manticore and Chu Fengmian followed closely behind Yanluo. The mountain range didn't seem big, but it would take about 10 minutes to reach the end. The mountain range was still in the Buddhist temple. Due to the suppression of the Buddhist temple, the speed of light was much slower. However, Chu Fengmian was already used to it. He secretly followed Meng Yanluo and observed every movement in the surroundings. It seemed that Meng Yanluo and the King Manticore didn't notice Chu Fengmian's strange behavior. Now that he had sneaked in, Chu Fengmian's next goal was to find a way to get the fragment of the Emperor Jar. Chu Fengmian's gaze swept around and finally landed on the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. He couldn't sense the aura of the fragment of the Emperor Jar in the mountain range. The only possibility was that the fragment was in the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. This was a little tricky for Chu Fengmian. He originally wanted to take advantage of the young emperor's absence to get the fragment of the Emperor Jar. That way, even if the young emperor saw through his identity, Chu Fengmian could escape with all his might. After all, he had achieved his goal. But now, the fragment of the Emperor Jar was in the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. Chu Fengmian could only stay and wait for the temple to open. Long Maluo, King Manticore, you too should know that the Buddha of the Pure Land is actually the greatest demon emperor of the demon race, Demon Emperor Shuexia, right? Meng Yanluo suddenly turned around and said to Chu Fengmian and the King Manticore while Chu Fengmian was thinking. Chu Fengmian and the King Manticore nodded. Not many people in the demon race knew about this, but Long Maluo and the King Manticore were high-level figures in the demon race. They had known about this for a long time. This time, the young emperor found the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. That's why he sent out the message and asked you to come. It is said that the Pure Land Buddhist temple contains the treasures of the demon emperor Shuexia, and even his inheritance. Meng Yanluo said slowly. There's a lot of danger in the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. That's why the young emperor asked you to come and help. However, the young emperor will not treat you unfairly. As long as you can break into the temple, all the treasures inside will belong to you. What about the inheritance of the demon emperor Shuexia? Who will it belong to? Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered with greed as he asked. Long Maluo was a greedy person. Since Chu Fengmian wanted to disguise himself as Long Maluo, he naturally had to do it flawlessly. The young emperor, of course. Meng Yanluo wasn't surprised to hear Chu Fengmian's words. She clearly knew Long Maluo's character, but her eyes were cold. Of course, Long Maluo, if you have the ability to compete with the young emperor, you can give it a try. Long Maluo, don't you dare fight with the young emperor and die in his hands. The King Manticore sneered from the side. Shut up. Chu Fengmian snorted coldly. What an arrogant guy. The King Manticore's eyes turned colder after being scolded by Chu Fengmian. However, he didn't fight with Chu Fengmian at this time. Instead, he asked Meng Yanluo. What kind of danger is there in the Pure Land Buddhist temple that even the young emperor can't handle? Why do you need us to help? Chapter 1653. After hearing the King Manticore's question, Chu Fengmian also braced himself and waited for Meng Yanluo's answer. The young emperor was a half-step celestial being. Now that he discovered the Pure Land Buddhist temple, he didn't fight alone. Instead, he invited King Manticore and Long Maluo to help. Apparently, there were many troublesome things in the Pure Land Buddhist temple that required the help of Long Maluo and King Manticore. It's nothing troublesome. It's just some remnant sword energy. After hundreds of thousands of years, its power is not worth mentioning. You can easily deal with it. Meng Yanluo said casually. Sword energy? Both Chu Fengmian and the King Manticore were surprised by this development. Obviously, this result was beyond their expectation. There was sword energy in the Pure Land Buddhist temple. Demon Emperor Shuexia was proficient in Buddhist and demonic arts, but there was no record of him knowing sword energy. Where did the sword energy in the Pure Land Buddhist temple come from? Could there be other secrets behind the fall of Demon Emperor Shuexia? Chu Fengmian pondered for a long time, but he couldn't come up with a conclusion. After all, Demon Emperor Shuexia and the Pure Land Buddhist temple existed hundreds of thousands of years ago. There were only a few records in the ancient books, but they were only a few strokes. For example, Chu Fengmian only knew about the evil blood demon emperor and the Pure Land Buddha from the ancient books. As for the fact that these two people were actually the same person, there was no record of such a secret in any of the ancient books. Chu Fengmian only heard about it from Long Maluo. With his understanding, it was impossible for him to find out the secret. Meng Yanluo's words were also ambiguous. She only mentioned it briefly and didn't want to go into details. Chu Fengmian knew that there was no point in pursuing the topic. So, he changed the topic. What about the young emperor? Where is he now? Chu Fengmian was most worried about the young emperor. His disguise as Long Maluo was enough to fool King Manticore and Meng Yanluo. However, Chu Fengmian wasn't sure if he could fool the young emperor. He had to be vigilant against the young emperor. The young emperor is busy dealing with some troubles, so he's not here right now. But when the Pure Land Buddhist temple opens, the young emperor will naturally appear. Meng Yanluo said casually. At the same time, their light gradually approached the Pure Land Buddhist temple. The Pure Land Buddhist temple was resplendent and dazzling. Among the thousands of Buddhist temples, it was the supreme peak. If Chu Fengmian didn't know the inside story, who would have thought that the master of such a Buddhist temple would actually turn into a demon and become a merciless demon emperor? All of you wait here. When the temple opens, you can enter. Remember, the treasures inside belong to whoever obtains them. Meng Yanluo brought Chu Fengmian and the King Chimera to a mountain peak near the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. Then, they disappeared without a trace. Chu Fengmian and the King Manticore landed on the ground. As soon as he set foot on the mountain, Chu Fengmian discovered that there were many tyrannical devils hiding in the surroundings. Longamo Luo, King Manticore, you're here too. A figure appeared on the mountain peak, walked over and said. It was a middle-aged man. Chu Fengmian felt that his appearance was somewhat familiar. Thinking back, Chu Fengmian remembered that he was one of the devils who entered the valley from outside. Night Devil King. Chu Fengmian had obtained Longamo Luo's memory, so he recognized the middle-aged man's identity at a glance. The Night Devil clan was also one of the most tyrannical clans among the devils. The strength of this Night Devil King was not inferior to the super geniuses among the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. He was comparable to young Master Huang and little Yaoang Han Yi. Of course, he was still inferior to Longamo Luo, the overlord of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. When he walked over, his tone was incomparably polite. After all, whether it was Longamo Luo or the King Manticore, they were both overlords among the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. Although he was also the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu, he didn't dare to offend these two. I didn't expect so many acquaintances to gather here this time. The King Manticore scanned the surroundings, the coldness in his eyes didn't diminish in the slightest. He turned back to look at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. Longamo Luo, today is not a suitable day for fighting. Let's settle the scores between us another day. The King Manticore's figure flashed, and he left immediately, choosing to stay close to the figures of the devils. Obviously, he was good friends with these devils and had formed a small group. This time, the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land opened. According to the rules, the treasures obtained would belong to whoever obtained them. If these experts worked together and entered the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land, they would have more opportunities to obtain more treasures. Longmo Luo, I wonder if you're interested in working together with me? The Night Devil King wasn't surprised to see the King Manticore leave. Instead, he looked at Chu Fengmian and invited him. I know you're powerful. If we work together this time, you'll get the lion's share of the treasures. I won't let you suffer a loss. That's right, Longamo Luo. The danger in the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land this time is no small matter. Otherwise, the young emperor wouldn't have told us about the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. If we work together, we'll be much safer. Another devil expert approached. This person's figure was incomparably illusory. It was the Void Devil King, the Void Devil King. He had obviously teamed up with the Night Devil King to rope in Chu Fengmian. I've always been alone. I don't need to work with others. Chu Fengmian was incomparably arrogant as he sneered. What kind of danger can stop me? This time, I'm going in alone. I won't work with anyone. Work together? That's just the behavior of a weakling. Chu Fengmian's rejection was unyielding. If he teamed up with the Night Devil King and the Void Devil King, Chu Fengmian wouldn't be able to move freely in the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land. His goal was the fragment of the Emperor Jar. As for the other treasures, they weren't that attractive to him. Moreover, if he teamed up with others, the possibility of his identity being exposed would be higher. Moreover, Longamo Luo was arrogant to begin with. He didn't even have many friends. It was normal for him to have such a reaction. After Chu Fengmian finished speaking, he walked away, ignoring the Night Devil King and the Void Devil King. This Longamo Luo is really arrogant. I didn't expect him to become more and more arrogant after so many years. The Night Devil King said with an unfriendly expression as he watched Chu Fengmian leave. He was also a devil expert. He had come to invite Chu Fengmian and offered him such generous benefits, but he was rejected so straightforwardly. This made him feel extremely embarrassed. Chapter 1654. This demonic dragon is unruly. It's time for him to suffer a loss. The Void Demon King looked at Chu Fengmian with flickering eyes, as if he wanted to take revenge. In the end, he sighed and gave up the idea. Forget it. Let's find someone else to join forces with. After all, Long Maluo was not a weakling. His strength could be said to be the overlord of the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu. Unless one was a half-step celestial being expert, no one would be willing to offend him. After the Night Demon King and the Void Demon King suffered a loss, they could only find someone else to join forces with. On the other side, after rejecting the Night Demon King's invitation, a few more devil experts came to invite Chu Fengmian to join their group so that they could explore the Buddhist temple together. Without exception, they were all rejected by Chu Fengmian. This demonic dragon is really arrogant and conceited. Sooner or later, he will suffer a great loss. After being rejected by Chu Fengmian, one of the demon clan experts also left with a cold face. After rejecting many invitations, Chu Fengmian stood on a mountain peak very close to the Buddhist temple. None of the countless demon clan experts in the surroundings dared to come near Chu Fengmian. Chu Fengmian quieted down and carefully observed the changes in the Buddhist temple. Half an hour passed. The Buddhist seal above the Buddhist temple was becoming more and more visible. The atmosphere of the place had also become a lot more serious. Countless demon clan experts, who had been contacted to help, were now looking at the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land with serious faces. The Buddhist temple of the Pure Land could be open at any time. Does Long Maluo really think that he can take advantage of it alone? Humph, this guy is so arrogant. Why don't we kill him and swallow his essence blood? We can also gain great benefits. Not far from Chu Fengmian, a demon in a black robe stared at Chu Fengmian with greed in his eyes as he talked to the person next to him. The black-robed demon exuded a strong smell of blood. He was a blood demon. Among the demon clan, the blood demon clan was an extremely unique existence. They fed on the blood of martial artists, demon gods, and even the demon clan. The stronger the blood they devoured, the stronger they would become. Therefore, the strength of the blood devils varied. This blood demon's aura was close to the peak of the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu. He was a king among the blood demons. The demonic dragon clan had a noble bloodline. It was the best tonic for the blood demon. He stared at Chu Fengmian with undisguised greed in his eyes. Long Maluo is not easy to deal with. With his strength, none of us are his match in a one-on-one fight. However, this is indeed a good opportunity to kill him. It was the Night Demon King, who had wanted to ally with Chu Fengmian earlier. His expression was incomparably gloomy when he mentioned Long Maluo. It was clear that he still remembered how Chu Fengmian had directly rejected him last time, which made him lose face. After hearing this suggestion, the Night Devil King's eyes revealed a strange light as he pondered. If Long Maluo dies in this Buddhist temple, even the demonic dragon clan won't know. When the time comes, we can say that we killed him and no one will come to find trouble with us. Everyone says that Long Maluo is strong. I'd like to see how much stronger he is compared to us. The demonic dragon clan's bloodline will benefit us greatly if we divide it equally among the 3 of us. The other Void Devil King also spoke in a cold voice. When we reach the Buddhist temple, we can test him. If Long Maluo is strong, the 3 of us will retreat. After all, Long Maluo won't be able to do anything to us if we join forces. The Blood Demon King looked at Chu Fengmian and said coldly. However, if Long Maluo is just a good-for-nothing trash, then we'll kill him and take his blood essence. Alright, let's do that. The Void Demon King and the Night Demon King both nodded. On the other side, Chu Fengmian already felt a murderous intent staring at him. Wanna kill me? Chu Fengmian sneered inwardly. The Blood Demon King, the Night Demon King, and the others were planning to kill Long Maluo and take his blood essence. However, they would never have guessed that Long Maluo had already been killed by Chu Fengmian. In terms of true strength, Chu Fengmian was even stronger than Long Maluo. The blood essence of the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu of the demonic clan also contained incomparably strong spiritual energy. The demonic will contained within the blood essence was highly toxic to ordinary martial artists. Even if they obtained it, they would have to retreat and not dare to refine it. However, Chu Fengmian had the bloodline of the heaven-devouring beast. The heaven-devouring secret technique could devour the heavens. How could the puny demonic will resist the heaven-devouring secret technique? Even the demonic will on Long Maluo could not affect Chu Fengmian. The demonic will on these people was even less of a threat. As long as they dared to make a move, Chu Fengmian would kill the three of them. Their blood essence would be turned into Chu Fengmian's strength and prepare him to step into the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu. It was not just the Night Demon King and the others. The demonic clan present were now scheming against each other, each with their own ulterior motives. The battle among the demonic clan was even crueler than that between martial artists. Killing and devouring each other was almost a common occurrence. To be able to step into the Nine Tribulations Emperor Gu, the hands of every demonic clan expert were stained with blood. They did not even need to blink their eyes to kill. Chu Fengmian looked at all this with an indifferent face. Under this solemn atmosphere, time passed little by little. Suddenly, a ray of colorful light shot up to the sky above the Buddhist temple. Chu Fengmian was very familiar with the appearance of this colorful light. He had seen it many times. The Buddhist temple of the Pure Land was opened. Rumble. Wisps of demonic intent burst out from the temple of the Blessed Land. The Buddhist temple of the Pure Land was completely different from the golden and dazzling exterior. The moment the door opened, demonic will surged and wailed like ghosts and wolves. It was like a demonic domain, with great resentment. So much resentment. How many experts have died here? After hundreds of thousands of years, not only did the resentment not dissipate, but it also turned into a resentful spirit? Chu Fengmian looked over. Inside the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land, he saw several figures. These figures were half real and half illusory. They were like ghosts, but the resentment on their bodies surged to the sky. It was the resentment of experts that had turned into resentful spirits. In the Buddhist temple of the Pure Land, there were probably millions of such resentful spirits. Chapter 1655. What a powerful resentment! When Demon Emperor Shuexia turned into a demon, he killed most of the disciples of the Pure Land sect in this temple. I'm afraid these resentful spirits are the disciples of the Pure Land sect. Humph, these resentful spirits are nothing. Demon Emperor Shuexia's treasure, here I come. Whoosh! The shocking resentment could not stop these demons at all. Several figures suddenly rushed toward the gate of the Pure Land Buddhist temple. In the demon clan, strength was the most important. They could only achieve their current strength by stepping on the corpses of other demons. Although there were many dangers in the Pure Land Buddhist temple, no one flinched at the thought of the treasure left by Demon Emperor Shuexia. Several demons could not bear it and turned into a ray of light and rushed over. Demon Emperor Shuexia was the most dazzling demon emperor in the history of the demon clan. His status in the demon clan was almost second to the demon ancestor, the 10 sky demons. Even a random treasure left by Demon Emperor Shuexia would be a real step to the sky if someone got it. It was enough to surpass all the demons of the same realm and become an overlord. They would have a transcendent status in the demon clan. Because of this, even though everyone knew about the dangers of the Pure Land Buddhist temple, the devils who were present didn't hesitate at all after receiving the news. All of them dared to come. Humph! We can't let others get ahead of us. Let's go! Night Demon King, Blood Demon King, Void Demon King, these 3 demon kings also rushed over. These 3 demon kings were the top figures of the 9 Tribulations Emperor Gu. Although their bloodline was not as good as Dragon Demon Dragon, King Manticore, and other overlords, the 3 of them together burst out the power. Even King Manticore had to retreat from the three of them. They immediately rushed to the front. However, King Manticore was not willing to fall behind. There was also a tyrannical demon beside him. Apparently, it was the number one that he had roped in. He also rushed toward the Pure Land Buddhist temple. It was a race against time. Go! Chu Fengmian did not hesitate. His figure suddenly changed, and directly turned into a 1,000-feet-long demon dragon. The dragon power condensed and rushed toward the Pure Land Buddhist temple. Along the way, any demon who dared to block Chu Fengmian was blown away by Chu Fengmian. He was incomparably tyrannical. He displayed the tyranny of the dragon race to the fullest. Damn it, this demonic dragon! Several demons who were knocked back spat out a mouthful of blood. They glared at Chu Fengmian, who was dashing around violently, with anger on their faces. However, even more devils chose to avoid the battle. Not many devils were willing to engage in a pointless battle with Long Maluo. Inside the Pure Land Buddhist temple, one could tell at a glance that it was incomparably dangerous. No one was willing to get injured at this time. Chu Fengmian, who had transformed into a demonic dragon, quickly overtook many demons and rushed to the forefront. The King Manticore also noticed Chu Fengmian's arrival. Its eyes flickered, but it didn't stop him. Instead, Chu Fengmian chose to retreat. Chu Fengmian barged his way through. In front of him, only the Night Devil King and the other two were left. Get out of my way! Rumble! Chu Fengmian opened his mouth and let out a long roar. The roar of a dragon shook the surrounding demons. Chu Fengmian's dragon roar was much more terrifying than the dragon roar unleashed by the true dragon Mara. This was a great shock to many of the demon race. Almost all of the demons present were top powerhouses of the devil race. If it had been some weaker demons, they would have been shaken to death by this dragon roar. The Night Devil King and the other two swayed in the air. Apparently, they were also shaken by the dragon roar. The Blood Demon King turned around and scolded Chu Fengmian. Long Maluo, do you think you're invincible? How dare you fight against the three of us together? Get out of my way or die! Chu Fengmian snorted coldly. He didn't waste any more words and brazenly attacked. Two dragon claws immediately bombarded the Blood Demon King. What he used was the purest martial technique of the Dragon Clan. He had to enter the Pure Land Buddhist temple alone to find the fragment of the Emperor Jar. Now that the temple had opened and the young emperor hadn't arrived yet, Chu Fengmian had to take advantage of this time to obtain the fragment of the Emperor Jar. Of course, he wouldn't let others enter before him. If the fragment fell into the hands of others, it would be troublesome. Damn it! Do you really think I'm afraid of you? The Blood Demon King was infuriated when he saw Chu Fengmian attack. He was also a Demon King. When had he ever been looked down upon like this? He immediately struck out a ray of bloodlight. This ray of bloodlight directly bombarded Chu Fengmian. Murderous intent surged in Chu Fengmian's eyes. One of his dragon claws slammed down on the ray of bloodlight. In an instant, the two forces collided. Boom! Spiritual energy exploded. Chu Fengmian's dragon claws were invincible. The Blood Demon King's ray of bloodlight was crushed the moment it struck down. Puff! The Blood Demon King was hit by the backlash of the attack. He was forced to retreat and suffered some minor injuries. At the same time, Chu Fengmian's other dragon claw slammed down on the Blood Demon King. If he could kill the Blood Demon King now, Chu Fengmian wouldn't mind doing it now. Boom! Just as the dragon claw was about to land, another two forces bombarded the dragon claw and collided with the power of the claw. It was the Night Demon King and the Void Demon King. They had also made their move. They had formed an alliance with the Blood Demon King. Of course, they wouldn't let Chu Fengmian kill the Blood Demon King. However, when they saw Chu Fengmian defeat the Blood Demon King with a single move, they were both shocked. The two of them were incomparably shocked. How did Long Maluo's strength become so tyrannical? Could it be that he had encountered some great opportunity in the 9 domains? Long Maluo had always been the ruler of the Nine Tribulations, Emperor Gu of the demon race. No one doubted his strength. However, the Blood Demon King wasn't a weakling either. At least, if the Blood Demon King and Long Maluo fought before, they would be on equal footing within 10 moves. Long Maluo would only gain the upper hand after 10 moves. Therefore, the Night Demon King and the Void Demon King didn't plan to attack when they saw the Blood Demon King make his move. They planned to let the Blood Demon King test Chu Fengmian's strength. However, they didn't expect the Blood Demon King to be so weak. He was defeated in one move and was even in danger of being killed. It was only then that the Night Demon King and the Void Demon King hurriedly made their move. Long Maluo, step back. Let's mind our own business. Fighting here won't do anyone any good. The Night Demon King said coldly as he stared at Chu Fengmian. Scram if you don't want to die. Chu Fengmian's reply was as arrogant as ever. Even if the three of them joined forces, Chu Fengmian wasn't afraid at all. This Long Maluo wants to fight the three of them alone? When did his strength become so terrifying? Chapter 1656. It seems that this demonic dragon has found a great opportunity in the 9 regions. He's really lucky. Long Maluo does have some hope of stepping into the half-step celestial realm. It's not that easy to step into the half-step celestial realm. In the past 100 years, only the young emperor has stepped into the half-step celestial realm. Long Maluo is still far from it. The demon's eyes flickered as they discussed. None of them dared to step forward and get involved in the battle. To them, it was best for Long Maluo and the Night Demon King to fight until both sides were injured. With 2 less powerful enemies, they would have a chance to get more treasures. Long Maluo, you're too arrogant. The Night Demon King's expression changed when he heard Chu Fengmian's arrogant words. He wanted to give Chu Fengmian a way out so that both sides could avoid trouble. There would be a great battle in the Pure Land Buddhist Temple, and he didn't want to get into a conflict with Chu Fengmian. But he didn't expect Chu Fengmian to not give him any face. He was the Night Demon King, a famous expert among the demons. How could he tolerate this? Long Maluo, since you're so arrogant, let's see if you have what it takes to be so arrogant. The Night Demon King looked at the Void Demon King and the Blood Demon King and roared. Attack! Boom! The Night Demon King, the Void Demon King, and the Blood Demon King attacked at the same time. The Night Demon King knew Long Maluo's strength. He had defeated the Blood Demon King with one move. If he were in Long Maluo's place, he would have ended up the same way. So once they attacked, they decided to shed all pretense of cordiality. The 3 of them attacked Chu Fengmian together. The spiritual power of the 3 combined condensed in the sky and turned into a giant demonic hand that grabbed at Chu Fengmian. The surrounding mountains shook when the move was made. The 3 demon kings were the pinnacle of the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu. Although their combined power couldn't reach the half-step celestial realm, no one among the 9 tribulations Emperor Gu could rival them. The giant hand of demonic will covered the sky and the earth as it enveloped the demonic dragon's body. It was about to grab the demonic dragon. A bunch of ants. Even if you join hands, you're still trash. Break for me. Chu Fengmian snorted coldly. The demonic dragon's body suddenly soared into the sky. It spun and danced, and a rolling dragon's might descended. The moment the demonic hand approached Chu Fengmian's body, it was mercilessly crushed by the dragon's might. Battle dragon dances in the heavens. Rumble. In the next moment, the surging dragon might condensed into the appearance of an ancient war dragon and roared at the Night Demon King and the other 2. What? How is this possible? The Night Demon Emperor and his crew were astounded. They panicked at the sight before them. They quickly gathered their spiritual energy and formed a barrier to defend themselves against the attack of the primordial battle dragon. Crack! The primordial war dragon charged forward. The barrier shattered one after another, and the Night Demon King and the other 2 were forced back, spitting out large mouthfuls of essence blood. Chu Fengmian did not intend to let the three of them go. After repelling the three of them, the demonic dragon's body chased after them. 2 dragon checks mercilessly fell. "Let's go!" The Blood Demon King saw Chu Fengmian coming over. His body flickered and turned into a blood-red light. He grabbed the Night Demon King and the Void Demon King, turned into a blood-red light, and fled 10 miles away. Chu Fengmian's 2 dragon claws also hit empty air. Chu Fengmian's eyes flickered as he watched the 3 of them flee. He thought for a moment and did not pursue them. Instead, he flew directly in the direction of the Pure Land Buddhist Temple. He was the first to rush into the Pure Land Buddhist Temple. How did Long Maluo's strength become so terrifying? It was only when they saw the demonic dragon enter the Pure Land Buddhist Temple that many of the Demon Clan experts recovered from their shock and said in disbelief. As an expert of the demonic dragon clan, Long Maluo's strength was naturally known by everyone. Many of the people present had fought with Long Maluo before. However, although Long Maluo was strong, he was only a head stronger than the Chimera King and the others. Fighting against the Blood Demon King and the others, 1 against 2 should be his limit. In the past, it would have been impossible for him to fight 1 against 3. But today, he defeated the Blood Demon King, the Night Demon King, and the others with a single move. Long Maluo is not to be trifled with. Many experts of the devil race understood this point, but they didn't stop. Instead, their figures flickered again and again. Many of them also activated the escape light and entered the Buddhist Temple of the Pure Land. Chu Fengmian's battle with the Night Demon King and the others was just a small interlude. Their goal was still the Pure Land Buddhist Temple and the treasures of the Demon Emperor Evil Blood. As for the battle just now, it was just a reminder to them not to provoke Chu Fengmian. I didn't expect Long Maluo's strength to be so terrifying. If he had attacked in the Pure Land Buddhist Temple, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to escape unscathed. On the other side, the Blood Demon King and the others had recovered from their injuries. Among them, the Night Demon King looked in the direction Chu Fengmian had left and couldn't help but frown. Chu Fengmian's strength just now was beyond their expectations. Even if the 3 of them joined forces, it was almost impossible to kill Chu Fengmian. Long Maluo's strength has increased so quickly. I'm afraid he has encountered some amazing fortuitous encounter. If we can kill him, we will get more benefits. The Blood Demon King licked the corner of his mouth and said greedily. Although he had suffered a loss just now, not only did it not dispel the idea in his heart, but it also made him more excited. His strength increased by devouring the essence blood of experts. The stronger the essence blood he devoured, the greater his strength would increase. There will be many dangers in this temple. Long Maluo is moving alone anyway. We can always seize the opportunity to kill him when he is unprepared. The Void Demon King's eyes flickered, and his voice was filled with killing intent. The 3 figures conversed for a while, then turned into a ray of escape light and flew toward the Pure Land Buddhist Temple. The Pure Land Buddhist Temple. Chu Fengmian was the first to rush into the Pure Land Buddhist Temple. The moment he entered the temple, Chu Fengmian transformed back into his human form. He had just displayed the demonic dragon's body because he was afraid of exposing his identity when facing the enemy. Among the Demon Clan experts, there were not many who knew about the Dragon Clan. Therefore, displaying the power of the demonic dragon's body was enough to fool them. Kill! 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 All of you must die. All of you must be buried with us. Boom! Just as Chu Fengmian stepped into the Pure Land Buddhist Temple, before he had time to observe his surroundings, more than a dozen resentful spirits emerged from the surroundings and suddenly attacked Chu Fengmian. Chapter 1657. These resentful spirits were almost as strong as Emperor Gu. They were full of resentment. These resentful spirits wanted to kill everyone who entered the temple to accompany them. More than a dozen resentful spirits attacked Chu Fengmian at the same time. The martial skills they used were basically Buddhist martial skills. It seemed that what Chu Fengmian heard outside was the same. The resentful spirits inside should be the former disciples of the Pure Land sect. The decline of the Pure Land sect had a lot to do with the Pure Land Buddha turning into Demon Emperor Shuexia. Later, when Demon Emperor Shuexia returned to the Pure Land sect, he killed almost half of the disciples in the Pure Land Buddhist temple and turned into so many resentful spirits. This was also the reason for the decline of the Pure Land sect and its eventual demise. Ancestors' first move. Facing the resentful spirits coming from all directions, Chu Fengmian sneered and condensed them in his palm. With a wave of his hand, it turned into a dragon claw and swept across. Boom! Boom! All the resentful spirits near Chu Fengmian were killed. This time, he came to the Pure Land Buddhist temple to find the fragment of the Emperor Jar. He was too lazy to be entangled with these resentful spirits. After exterminating all the surrounding vengeful spirits with a single move, Chu Fengmian suddenly shut his eyes tightly. Within a breath's time, he opened them once again and looked towards a path within the Buddhist temple. His figure flashed as he charged in. After entering the Pure Land Buddhist temple, Chu Fengmian could clearly feel the location of the fragment of the Emperor Jar. Following the direction of the Emperor Jar, he rushed into the depths of the Pure Land Buddhist temple. At the same time, Chu Fengmian also felt that countless Demon Clan experts had rushed into the Pure Land Buddhist temple behind him. These Demon Clan experts rushed in and continued to rush towards the depths of the Buddhist temple. However, within the Pure Land Buddhist temple, there were more than 1,000 passageways. Almost every passageway was different. Chu Fengmian felt that the fragment of the Emperor Jar was now at the end of the passage. The Pure Land Buddhist temple was not like the mausoleum of the Golden Buddha, where there were Buddhist restrictions everywhere. It seemed that the restrictions were destroyed by Demon Emperor Shuexia himself. There were traces of demonic will in many places. Demonic will and resentful spirits could not see that Chu Fengmian was now in a Buddhist temple. Rather than a Buddhist temple, it was more like the burial place of a large number of Pure Land sect disciples. Without the threat of the Buddhist restrictions, Chu Fengmian was much more relaxed. He encountered all the resentful spirits along the way. I don't know what the sword Qi Mengyan Luo is. As Chu Fengmian was moving forward, Chu Fengmian thought. Yan Luo mentioned before was the danger in the Pure Land Buddhist temple. Spirit Qi of the Demon Clan experts of Demon Clan experts of the Demon Clan of the Demon Clan experts were demon experts of the martial demon. The strength of these resentful spirits was far inferior to that of the demon race's cultivators. Although they were strong when they were alive, their strength after death was less than 10%. Level spirit martial was of them. Jianwang of God of the powerful of God of the of. Of course, it. However, Chu Fengmian had yet to detect the existence of sword Qi in the Pure Land Buddhist temple. Just as Chu Fengmian was pondering, a shadow suddenly rushed towards him. Another resentful spirit? Chu Fengmian thought it was a resentful spirit. He gathered his spiritual power and looked forward. Just as he was about to gather his spiritual power and attack, he suddenly realized that it was a sword Qi the size of a human figure. The sword Qi contained an extremely overbearing power. It seemed to have sensed Chu Fengmian's presence and slashed towards him. Is this the sword Qi Mengyan Luo mentioned? Chu Fengmian was still thinking about the sword Qi. He didn't expect to encounter it so soon. The sword Qi slashed towards Chu Fengmian mercilessly. The moment the sword Qi locked onto him, Chu Fengmian felt a chill run down his spine. It was as if he had sensed great danger. Sword out. The ancestral dragon supreme sword came out from the world's edge sword case on Chu Fengmian's back. Chu Fengmian held the sword in his hand and slashed towards the sword Qi. Chu Fengmian had experienced countless battles of life and death. He had a certain premonition of danger. The sword Qi was obviously a great threat to Chu Fengmian. That was why Chu Fengmian felt so threatened. Therefore, Chu Fengmian didn't dare to underestimate it. He channeled all his spiritual power into the sword edge. The sword soared into the sky and slashed towards the sword Qi. Bang! When the sword chi collided, Chu Fengmian actually felt a sharp and tyrannical power that wanted to tear his body apart. The 129,600 fleshly crystals in Chu Fengmian's body condensed into a perfect body to withstand the sharpness of the sword chi. What is this? How can a sword chi have such terrifying power? Chu Fengmian was shocked. He had activated more than half of his power just now. Even if 4 or 5 Emperor Gu of the 9 Tribulations attacked together, Chu Fengmian's sword light would be enough to dissolve their bombardment. However, when the sword chi collided with Chu Fengmian's sword light, Chu Fengmian suffered such great pressure that his sword light was mercilessly crushed. If Chu Fengmian's body hadn't reached the half-step immoral real body, the sword chi would have been destroyed. The remaining power of the sword chi just now was enough to completely blow up Chu Fengmian's body and destroy it. A single streak of sword chi actually contained such terrifying power. While Chu Fengmian was still in shock, the sword chi didn't seem to want to let Chu Fengmian go. It slashed towards Chu Fengmian again. In an instant, the sword chi split into thousands and slashed towards Chu Fengmian from all directions. A sword chi knows swordsmanship? Chu Fengmian was shocked when he saw the sword chi slashing towards him from all directions. Sword chi was an inanimate object. Pure sword principle could condense spiritual power into sword chi. Chu Fengmian could easily release thousands of sword chi. However, the sword chi in front of him was like a living thing. It knew swordsmanship. The moment it touched Chu Fengmian, it performed swordsmanship and slashed towards him. When it performed swordsmanship, the power of the sword chi was several times more terrifying. The overwhelming sword chi was obviously trying to kill Chu Fengmian in one fell swoop. This sword chi, is it the supreme sword chi? It knows swordsmanship. No matter what, this is definitely a good treasure. It will be of great use to me. Let me subdue this sword chi first. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.